Hello again, everybody, and welcome to a potpourri edition of the Jim Cornette Experience. We're going to talk Smackdown. We're going to have viewer mail. We're going to review the news, and we're going to talk about things that just grind my gears. And to join me, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you. He put the pot in potpourri. The great Brian Last, everybody.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again for another professional edition of Jim Cornette's. No, this is the Jim Cornette Experience. I was about to say the wrong
Jim
show.
Cornette's Experience.
Well, the Jim Cornette Experience. There's a the.
Yes, there's a the. I am the Jim Cornette, whether you like it or not.
That's right.
And yes, and now we're joined by gardeners. I call them lawnmowers down south. You call them gardeners.
Oh, you're always complaining about these things that no one hears in the background.
Well, it's just part of my super hearing that I have.
Super hearing?
Oh, yeah, I can hear all kinds of strange noises and things going on in outer space. You didn't know that? You're so deaf you can't hear it thunder.
Melissa, did you send him my script from a few months ago? He's doing my material.
So this is what we've done is we've entered into the personality changing thing. That's where they got twisted up in the transporter, and Kirk became evil and tried to molest Uhura or whatever that.
A whore? He tried to molest a whore?
Uhura. Uhura.
All right, it's a great show so far. It sounded like Stu Hart saying a whore.
No, that's a whore.
Oh, a whore.
Hey, trying to make Diana look like some kind of whore.
Did you tell Davey Boy about that?
Yes.
I know you told Bruce about it because you thought it was him or whoever it was, but...
Well, yes, because they were sitting there. I thought they were part of the rib. They were sitting there listening to what I was saying and they knew it was Stu. That's why their faces were contorted in the manner in which they were. But when I started burying Bruce, they kind of got with it, right? At first I was like, oh, yeah, you know... And fucking, I swear to God, I thought it was Bruce. I didn't know I was talking in a flippant manner to a legend who could have stretched me. But
does that go to Vince? Vince Stu called. He's afraid that you're making his daughter look like a whore.
Well, no, I think it went to Vince through Stu because I didn't tell him, and I don't think Bruce apparently wasn't involved in the conversation. But the next thing we knew, Diana was no longer a whore. Or on the program. So somebody went to Vince. Anyway, if nobody knows what we're talking about now, the clip is on the channel, is it not? On YouTube?
Certainly it is. I don't know what the clip name would be. I would have to look it up. It certainly doesn't have the word whore in it.
And probably, does it have whore?
How would you spell that? How would the spelling?
I would look at Hoor.
You would spell that, really?
Pasahoor. The way he elongated the middle there.
Do you think we should have more words with 3 O's in the middle?
Well, we need more vowels. Because, there ought to be A-E-I-O-U, and sometimes Y just aren't enough in today's fast-paced society. If we had a few more vowels, you could stick them in there, and it wouldn't look so redundant, but it'd still get the point across. We could go to 28 or 29 characters, couldn't we?
I mean, who's we?
We as a people.
How many characters do they have in Japan?
Boy, apparently not as many as they used to, judging from the talent they're exporting.
That's not what I meant.
Well, look that up. Google that before we get to business today, because we're going to a lot of monkey business today. But how many characters are there in the Japanese, well, not language, but
alphabet?
Alphabet. Thank you.
The Japanese alphabet has 92 characters.
Jesus Christ.
In the hiragana and katakana syllabaries. And now this says there's 46 basic characters.
And 90 something in another variation.
In another variation.
Well, Jesus Christ, they've got to be twice as smart as we are, because how the fuck would you learn twice as many letters in the alphabet and not take till you're 30 to graduate?
You know, it's one of those things that stood out about the Japanese magazines when you saw them. They all had the great photography, of course, but because Japan was a reading culture, it was filled with seemingly more words than any of the American magazines.
Oh my God, yes, it was like a phone book.
Yeah.
And it was laid out well. It wasn't just like you're just reading, well, you're not reading any of it unless you read Japanese, but it wasn't like you were looking at something that was just text over and over. There were boxes with photos, and there were, columns, and there were separations, and things laid out very well, even just the black and white text pages. I wish now I could read all that shit so I'd know what they were saying.
I just got, where did I put it? Because I haven't used it yet, because I gotta hook it up. Here it is. Here it is. It's a translator pen. Apparently I rub this, or I run it across a sentence in another language, it will say out loud what it is.
That is not possible.
That's what the commercial this.
Not for anything that you would have been willing to pay, I wouldn't imagine.
That's what I saw at 3 a.m. on Facebook. It looked good enough to me.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go. I don't think they shipped it to you from NASA.
I don't think.
Is this an MIT product or?
Well, it says translation pen. I don't know how to use it. I just turned it on to see if it would turn on without charging. It says translation pen. Do I just?
Is it a Popeil brand?
No, it's not a Ron Popeil. I think is he alive anymore? I think he died, didn't he? He died a few years ago. We talked.
Well, his company could live on. We've still got plenty of companies named after old white dead fuckers.
No, this is the wrong instructions. I don't know where the instructions. Oh wait.
Initializing. Maybe you need the instructions translated.
It's initializing the offline resources. I have to wait.
It's doing what to who?
That's what it says. Voice translation. Scan translation. Hold on. Let's try this scan. Please
wait a minute. Let me reset this again here. For the people that may have come in late while you're still taking your seats, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm going to grab a Japanese magazine. You keep talking.
Oh, God damn it. So apparently what Brian Last, who has now gone to Tokyo to the wrestling store to get a Japanese magazine, is saying is that he is going to be able to rub in some fashion this pen across a line of dialogue in another language, and it will translate it out loud as to what that said.
Well, let's give this a shot. I don't know if I'm going to do this right. I'm scanning. Nothing's happening. Okay. Scan translation. It's scanning. It's pulling up the letters, or at least a lot of them.
It's pulling them off of the page? It's erasing them, or is it absorbing them, or what is it doing?
Oh, what is it? It's saying something. Hold on. It was.
Listen closely, ladies and gentlemen.
What? Translation. What the fuck? It just says corn, or what is it saying? Oh, let me try this again on a different sentence. That obviously didn't work correctly.
Wait a minute. Now, hold on here a second. Now, there may be a loophole here. Listen to me. Hear me what I'm telling you, boy. Now, the Japanese people, they read. The book opens as the backwards way they read. Is it left to right or right to left? Now, you know what I'm trying to say. Should you run it across the line? Are you trying to do some kind of Paul is dead backwards bullshit?
That is tough because it does say please scan as vertically as possible.
Are you going the wrong way there, son?
I don't know. We'll try this one more time. I will go this way. I'll see if it's scanning. It doesn't appear to be scanning any of these words now. 7. Okay. Didn't even get the right page number. It's 15.
I was about to say, is that the page number?
No, I'm on 15. It didn't even get that right. What if I scan this? Hold on. This is almost words.
I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, on this unplanned...
It's exciting.
Interruption in our programming. At least they'll be finished mowing my yard by the time you get this working.
Where's the sound coming out of on this thing? Oh.
Is there a speak? Can you hold it up to the microphone or your ear? Connie Chung? Is that what?
I'm going to turn this off. I'll try it later on.
What the fuck?
We'll get this to work, and we're going to...
How much did you pay for this miracle of modern technology?
Oh, not much. Like less than $60, probably.
Okay, for $50, you expected somebody to send you a pin that was going to do this high-tech bullshit. And it's...
For $50, I was absolutely willing to see what the fuck they were going to send me and if it would work. Absolutely.
You just bought the spy pin is what you did, son.
Man, I've got so many cool gadgets here. You don't even know.
No, that cool gadget. Yeah, they were. You bought the spy pin. I
didn't buy the spy pin.
When I was 9 years old, I got the spy pin.
I got the translator pen.
And the ad in the magazine for the spy pin was the guy holding the normal-looking, everyday ink pen up to his eye, and through the wall, he's seeing through the wall, and you can see the lady in her negligee. It was a negligee that she was in when she was preparing for bed. $2.99, I think, will get you this pen. You can see through the fucking wall with it, right? And I sent the $2.99 in there, and I got the package, and I opened it up. And you know how you were going to be able to see through the wall, Brian?
I know how you thought you were going to, yeah.
Well, because it had a special thing that plugged into the end of the pin that was an auger on the other end of it, and you were supposed to sit there and grind a hole in the wall on your side of the room and through whatever may lie in between and pop out the other side, and then you take that thing off, and then you hold the pin up, and it's got the little fucking telescope little thing. And then they didn't tell you had to drill a hole in the wall. How, when you're 9 years old, how are you going to get away with that? And just sit something in front of it?
At any age, how are you going to get away with that with Mama Cornette?
Well, if Mama Cornette at any age, no. But if you're of adult age and it's your house, I guess you could drill a hole in your own wall if you wanted to. But then if it's your own house, God damn it, you ought to be able to just walk in another room and see what the fuck's going on. So it didn't live up to the hype.
I'm not giving up on this sleek translator pen. I'll figure out how to get this to work. Maybe it's the wrong language. Maybe it has a problem with Japanese.
Does it write?
No. It just scans and talks to you, apparently.
So you got a pen that don't write.
Maybe the problem is I haven't hooked it up yet to the internet. It needs internet. These were just the offline functions.
How the fuck do you hook it up to the internet?
You probably have to pick it up via Bluetooth and make sure that it's on their network. And then once it can access the internet, then it will just be flooded with language and characters. And I'll be telling all sorts of stories in all sorts of languages in future weeks here on the show.
Well, can you try to make one of those stories in one of those languages better than this one?
There are no guarantees.
If we could just have some type of assurance. Anyway, should we get the elephant in the room, or in this case, the Undertaker in the room, out of the way first, so we can move on to other more productive things?
Well, it is trending season. You started trending about a week ago because of the Obafemi clip, and then, surprise, surprise, as I was editing, I looked on Twitter, and you were trending again, and this time because of a dead man.
Well, it's trending on Twitter, as we've established here, is so ridiculous and silly, and who gives two flying shits to begin with. I'll try to keep my language down at the top of the clip here. YouTube might get sensitive. But it's not even about trending on Twitter at this point. It's serious. And we're coming up in a couple of weeks from some very serious shit that needs to go correctly for the sake of all of us. Where we have to drag half of them kicking and screaming into logic, reason, and common sense or not. And everybody had already started inundating me on Twitter, and I'm sure you got them at the drive-through email. Oh, they announced Taker's going to have Donald Trump on his program. Taker's going to have Donald Trump on his podcast. Can you get Kamala Harris? First of all, I don't think so, because she's actually got shit to do. right? I believe at this point.
No, she'd totally do it. That's the problem. Everyone will do any podcast they think is an audience right now.
Well, no, but that's unfortunately, apparently, that's who Undertaker's audience is these people. And again, I say this all the time, and I end up doing it, and I end up saying it again. You can't say anything nice about anybody anymore. You never know. And I know a lot of people over the weekend have got back, well, you're surprised that Undertaker is a Republican. No. I'm surprised Undertaker's not one of the honest Republicans. I'm surprised that he's not the person. It's like Shawn Michaels now. I will always say Shawn Michaels was the greatest performer in ring of that particular era. And also what an asshole he was. Now I have to say Undertaker was the greatest gimmick ever, blah, blah, blah. But as 27,000 people gave me the little heart on the Twitter when I said, you're not the person we thought you were. As a person. Because, again, I understand Glenn Kane. He's an elected Republican politician. He's got to do this shit if he wants to get ahead, and we've established that's what he wants to do, or he'd be obviously telling people the fucking truth. And maybe he wants to be a senator. And maybe he wants to be, who knows, president. The bar has been set so low by the previous administration that anybody can have those hopes. And so he's doing it for votes, for his career, to get ahead. He has something to gain. What does the Undertaker have to gain by sitting there next to that bag of flesh and encouraging people to vote for him? I thought we'd established Undertaker's not stupid. I still don't think he's stupid. Although any revelation now is possible with anybody. What is in it for him to have a guy he has to know is a fucking criminal? Well, he doesn't have to know it. Everybody knows it. He is an actual convicted felon. Why would he push that? Even though he's a Republican, that's another thing that they're pushing. They went a whole Twitter brouhaha because they put that clip out there of both Kane and Taker sitting with this thing. And Trump was like the meat in an idiot sandwich. And they've got their hands on his knee and like, yeah. Don't go with Batista and Kamala. It's not about political differences. It's right versus wrong and fact versus fiction. And there are Republicans that have come out and said no. And here's why. Many of them former Republicans, because the sheep don't want to hear that. They vote them all out, but at least they showed they had a conscience and some kind of moral compass. There were 100-some Republicans of various states and statuses and offices at one of Kamala Harris's rallies last week that came there because of country over party and logic and reason over lunacy. So with Taker, going back to that, what does he have to gain? He's a gun guy, but he lives in Texas, which is very deeply red, not just the necks. And so he's not going to live long enough. None of us will live long enough to see anybody, Democrats, Republicans, or whatever, take the people's guns away in Texas and do anything about gun control in this country. So we don't have to worry about that. So you want to save on taxes? It's okay if Al Capone's running the country as long as I save on taxes. I thought he was a better person, is what I'm saying, which is why that disappointed me. And then when I tweeted about the disappointment to Mark and Glenn, not even cussing them, just said, people thought a lot of you all this time, and then you're going to ruin it all for this guy. to help him ruin the country. That's what got 27,000 of those little heart thingies. That indicates, I guess, that people agreed with me. And then all the right wingers come out of the closet or the basement or the bunker or wherever it is they hunker down and cower from all these non-existent fears and prejudices they've got. Oh, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And half of them actually, Brian, I'm starting to suspectify that a lot of these right-wing Twitter accounts are like the same guy with 47 accounts or one of those bots that the kids like to talk about, because it's always like, my name is Bill. I'm a hardworking country boy doing the best I can in this big old world. Hashtag MAGA. The fuck? With a generic picture from Central Casting of some fucking shit kicker somewhere.
I'm sure it'll be an illuminating conversation. Maybe they'll bond over their, experiences losing their hair or their love of porn stars or one or the other. Who knows?
But it again, it's disappointing when people again, the Republicans will try to hit, well, you're losing friendships over political differences. It's not political differences. It's what your mother and father taught you. It's what kind of person you are. How do we want to be identified as a country of people with the most literally wretched excuse for a human flawed in every way and totally unfit for the job? And because we want to own the libs, or we're afraid that someone's going to give Junior a sex change operation in third period, we can't just, the Republicans can't just sit down and say, you know what? Yeah, he's almost 80 now, and he wasn't real swift to begin with, and he's fucking lost it, and he's totally unfit. And we made a mistake this time. We don't even have to vote for the Democrat. We'll just stay home. And everything's been rolling along fine, despite all of the efforts to the contrary for this con man to convince people otherwise. Stock market's at an all-time high. Unemployment's at 4%. Inflation is down to 2%. So that we avoided the recession with a soft landing, thanks to the current administration. So why fuck with that? And everything will run right along. And then in 4 years, we can get our shit together and nominate as the Republican Party somebody who's not a criminal lunatic. How is it that hard for these people to, instead of owning the libs, and what could possibly be more important to them in their lives than just taking one for the next 4 years for the sake of democracy as a whole, to rid ourselves of this cretin who has caused all this? And if your parents taught you right from wrong, I mean, Brian, are we on YouTube still yet with this commentary so far?
I think we're going to be on YouTube. This is a topical issue, and everyone wants to hear what you're going to say about it. You haven't crossed any lines.
Okay, well then let's stick to just facts instead of my sometimes hyperbole or my opinion. I'll try to keep the profanity down, but let's just examine what anybody living in the real world knows to be facts. Facts that have been documented, video, audio, people come out and admit I said and did these things, kind of facts, right? Not even stuff we have to adjudicate. So first of all, Donald Trump is a convicted criminal. He is a convicted felon. He has been found guilty. 34, I believe, is the number, felonies related to the election interference scheme with the hush money and diverting election funds and fundraising and all of those various crimes that are crimes. They don't understand them down in Bean Station. It don't happen that much out there or over in Pocatello maybe, but these are federal crimes, felonies. He was found guilty. You can't vote for president in the United States if you're a convicted felon, but you can run. But let's say that white collar crime, you don't care about that. Yeah, that's just it's paperwork, and it's just it's this bullshit. That doesn't identify with some people. Let's talk about a different kind of crime. He has been found civilly liable of sexual assault, and not only that, but accused by multiple dozens of other women who have had suits in various states of progress or process or commentaries of same. So there's the sexual assault. But let's say you're one of the boys. You lie. He's one of the boys. Sometimes these women in the fucking department store at 2 p.m, the way they dress, they deserve it. That doesn't bother me, the sexual assault. We need some crime here. Donald Trump and his entire family are legally barred from operating a charity in the state of New York because they stole money from children with cancer. Brian, do you have the little game show music where we could just play that for 10 seconds to let that sink in? Or do you think people, should I say it again? They stole money from children with cancer and were not only found legally responsible, but are barred from operating a charity. The president of the United States, in one of the nation's most populated states, along with California, cannot raise money for children with cancer because he stole it before. But that might not be your kind of crime. That's not a serious crime. I mean, he didn't do anything major like try to overthrow the government or incite an insurrection. Oh, wait. The only reason that he hasn't been found guilty of that is because the trial has not happened yet. And if it does, even if he loses, the Supreme Court has suggested that he could be immune from everything, and those are all the judges that he nominated, the Supreme Court and the district judge that has delayed this shit. Wouldn't you know who won the pony? So all that is still up for grabs. He's been accused, and the processes are winding their way through the court. That would be, like insurrection, things of that nature. But we know what the result is because we know what happened because they had a thing called the January 6th Committee where they clearly delineated everything that he did and was responsible for, including some of his people that were working for him under oath in front of the government on live television, in front of God and everybody, as Mama Cornette might say, said, yes, he did this and that and the other thing. And yes, I did this and that and the other thing. And they showed the video of what happened. And they had the testimony of the police officers. And they had the testimony of all of the people in the Capitol that were running for the goddamn basement because these maniacs were on the loose, including the vice president of the United States, who they wanted to hang, who has come out and since said, obviously, because if you say anything you want about Pence, at least he came through as goddamn not just a out-and-out criminal. He said, yeah, I can't support this man. So there's that kind of crime. But while we're on the subject of patriots and, people who want to overthrow or keep democracy, Brian, and we're still talking facts here, right? Have I deviated from anything that's been publicly seen, known, validated, verified to anybody without their head shoved up a cavernous rectum?
I think everything you've said has been factual.
Okay, well, then how about the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Trump's generals and national security people who have come out and said he's an idiot, that's a quote, that he's unfit to serve, that he was a danger to national security because you can't trust him with secrets. That's the generals. That's the security officials. That's the people who the patriots are supposed to be saluting, but they don't believe them when they say that. Because this guy with a diversion because of bone spurs to get out of Vietnam, who has been quoted as calling service people who got killed in wherever suckers and losers, and made fun of John McCain for getting captured. The patriots are on his side instead of these goddamn generals with these fucking hawk noses and these buzz cuts that you can tell would love to get in a goddamn good old-fashioned war. And he's unacceptable to them. And have I lied yet, Brian? Have I deviated from any facts that people have said, yes, I'm saying these things right out here in public? You can quote me.
I mean, you're ignoring the big issue, which is that he can get great numbers for The Undertaker. That's what it's about.
Okay, and again, if The Undertaker cares about the country, if The Undertaker is as patriotic as he says he is, then why does he want what basically amounts now to a senile buffoon? They talked about Joe Biden, a kindly old man with experience and a stutter. They thought his brain was melted. I'll give you 3 quotes of Donald Trump's over the last couple weeks, and then you tell me if this person either believes these things or is just lying because he knows that the idiots that will vote for him will believe these things. And do either of these things make a person qualified or disqualified for running for the most powerful office in the world? He said, first of all, he said they were eating the dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio, the illegal Haitian immigrants. We laughed about this a few weeks ago, right? But then when the mayor of Springfield and all the police and whoever the fuck's running Springfield said, no, all these, the Haitian people that are here legally. A lot of them work at a factory that is reviving our dying city. But besides that, nobody's eating any cats and dogs. We're getting bomb threats. We're getting fucking threats of violence. People are coming here. What the Haitian people are scared to go outside. Can you fucking tell people this is bullshit? They wouldn't do it because they want to scare people into thinking that this is really happening, so they will vote for him. They had a border bill, the Republicans and the Democrats, months ago, to do many of the things that they want to do at the border, and Trump talked all of his stooges into killing it because he couldn't run on it then and lie about it. And that's been publicly acknowledged. So again, I'm not lying. So he didn't care whether or not a bunch of people got fucking in trouble in Springfield, Ohio. And then he said they're emptying, and the reason why crime is down all over the world is because all these countries have emptied their mental institutions, insane asylums, and prisons, and sent us millions of these dangerous criminal lunatics instead of some fucking Mexican guys that want to do some drywall and make a living. And now he's got all these sheeple that hang on his every word for whatever unknown mental delusions. I'm sorry, I'm varying into opinion. People are believing this, that he's saying it, and then you're going to have people trying to run down some guy in a street because they think he's a fucking mental lunatic from Venezuela. If Trump believes that, when it's obviously not true, as the statistics, violent crime is down. But that doesn't scare anybody. So, and yes, somebody is going to commit a crime. There is going to be an illegal immigrant commit a crime today. And also a redneck from Wartburg. And also some fucking guy from Cleveland of a different religion. Because we haven't figured out a way to stop crime yet. And then lastly, so I was going to say, if he believes it, do you want him to be president? And if he's just lying, should he be president? Lastly, Brian, did you hear this one last week? And I saved the funny one for last. He said, you know, you drop your son off at school, it's a he, and they come home and it's a she. They've done an unauthorized sex change operation. They don't even have to get parents' permission. And this is a quote. Can you believe we're saying this? That's a quote. Can you believe we're talking about this? Did you hear that one?
I did, yeah.
Number one, no. Number two, no. And number three, no. No, not even because it's not happening and it's never happened. It's not actually physically, scientifically, biologically, however the fuck possible. It's not possible for that to happen. What do you think? It's having a tooth pulled? To fuck. So no, no. They're not going to whack Willie's Willie off in third period without asking the parents. No. But he said that because the Republicans are scared to death of gay people. Hiding the fact that if you go by politicians and or various people in the religious industry, you will find more Republicans in either field are being arrested and convicted for various crimes against children. I'll try to say that nicely. And there's another thing. How many people in the Trump administration last time are already in prison, been in prison, pleaded guilty to shit, were charged with shit? He set a record. And a bunch of them say, yes, I did it. I plead guilty. Please take it easy on me. I'm guilty as shit. I did exactly what you said I did. But that's okay. How is any of this okay? How is it? Donald Trump is not an acceptable human being on any standard to decent people. And that's why that we are so astonished when somebody tries to make a case that regardless of what the other side wants to do, within the realm of logic and reason would be worse than having this demented, senile, vengeful, petulant, childish, obnoxious, and incurious intellectually old man in charge of anything. Brian, did I deviate from any facts or get us kicked off of YouTube?
I don't know how much we'll get on YouTube. We'll have to see. We were talking about The Undertaker.
Yes, yes.
And The Undertaker having Donald Trump on his podcast, which caused you to trend, and a lot of people wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, those are my thoughts. I trended for that reason. I don't give a shit about trending on Twitter. It's childish and ludicrous, but sometimes it's fun to play with people. But this is more serious. And I'm disappointed in The Undertaker as I am disappointed in Kane, as I am disappointed in the boys should be able to put aside their political beliefs and differences to be able to stand up and just know when a guy's full of shit and a con man.
These guys worship Vince and probably still talk to Vince.
But you know what? Vince was so smooth. I can even understand Vince, and he's done it to me, the Jedi mind tricks, where he's so articulate and understanding and said, I mean, he looks like Stradivarius next to Trump being some fiddler in a barn somewhere. You can understand Vince getting away with it because of that way he had. But this guy is so invisibly see-through, and it's been documented. And a lot more people in the Trump administration have gone to jail than ever went to jail for any crime in the WWE. Am I deviating from any facts?
I think that's true.
So I can't understand the boys standing up.
Because the boys are idiots. Why do you act? You're acting like these guys are intelligent. That's the problem.
I'm not saying
if you were a guy who sat in the locker room and said, that Glenn Jacobs really has his head screwed on right, then you're a fucking dope. And a lot of the guys thought, because he was sitting there with his libertarian garbage, that he must know what he's talking about. I'll follow along with him. I heard the Undertaker say the other day, Kane's the smartest person I know. I saw a quote, like some article from that.
But I don't know that Glenn has ever committed any crimes. Okay, so now here's a question.
It's not about committing crimes. It's about, look, you said the truth at the top. He can't win an election right now unless he does what he's doing.
But I was going to ask you a question here that pertains to what you were saying to me, and you thought I was going in a different direction. Glenn Jacobs has not committed any crimes. He just panders to a certain segment of society that will vote for that type of thing, rather because he can't get elected to be a Democrat. He's not an expert in that area.
He's doing exactly what Trump does, self-preservation. That's what it is.
But Undertaker is friends with Kane. Right? They're only gimmick brothers. They're really friends. Undertaker's friends with Kane. And Undertaker supports Kane's political aspirations, and he's going to campaign for him or whatever the fuck. But at what point, if the mythical Glenn Jacobs was to start to commit crimes? And I can see Undertaker sticking with him through the campaign finance violations. Again, that's paperwork to the good old boys, right? And the white-collar crime. That wouldn't be a deal breaker. And again, maybe even the sexual assault. Well, she came on to me in the dressing room at fucking Bloomingdale's or wherever the fuck that was the closest place. But then stealing from children with cancer. And then leading an insurrection where people storm the fucking Capitol in Knoxville or whatever the fuck. The goddamn... overthrow the government of Knoxville and install Glenn Jacobs when he lost the election. At that point, does Mark not call him up and say, dude, what are you fucking doing?
Hey, I said,
what I'm saying. When do your friends, when they start robbing banks, do you go, this is not the person I thought they were? Where is the line there?
Like I said to you before, do you think he still talks to Vince?
Well, again, Vince, like it or not, has not been found guilty of any crime yet.
He's married to one of the women who was on the roster. You don't think he was one of the top guys there with a guy who it turns out likes to share women or photos of women with top guys. You don't think he knows what was going on with Vince in some way?
Again, with Undertaker, I don't even care if Vince loves to fuck around. He's one of the boys. But Vince didn't steal money from children with cancer. For fuck's sake. That's what I'm saying is I can knowing the personalities involved. And if you're really a friend with somebody, I see you overlooking that or seeing their side of that. But when you start trying to steal from children with cancer and then overthrow the fucking government? At that point, do you have to say, well, fuck, come on, dude? Like the kids say, you don't see my point.
No, I mean, I do see your point, but again, I think. So
I'm not excusing Vince, but I'm saying even Vince has not been found guilty of felonies and done all these other goddamn things.
Same thing. If you know Vince was fucking abusing anyone or think it, and you still talk to him, then you're part of the problem. Then you're part of the problem, Bruce. Well, I mean, that's what I would say to him.
I'm just telling you, it's a bigger problem now. If one person is not getting shit on, we're all getting shit on. This is a bigger issue here.
The issue is this. Undertaker and Trump are going to use each other. Trump needs to get to as many men as he can, and he's going to use a podcast like The Undertaker's and various other podcasts in various genres. The Undertaker needs listeners, and he's going to use Trump, hoping that he doesn't get too much of a negative blowback, to try and...
He was getting blown back on Twitter a little bit too, as well as all of the right-wing bots. There were a lot of people that apparently looked like normal folks. So yeah, I'm disappointed in this fellow.
You want to hear something really funny? I had noticed this because I never check my messages, let alone my message requests on Instagram. But the day all this happened, I saw The Undertaker's co-host wrote to me asking if you would appear on The Undertaker show. He said if you did that, he'd be willing to come on your show. And this is before the Trump stuff. So they've been obviously looking for people who can get some numbers recently.
Well, I don't think that twain is going to meet, Mark. See what I did there?
That's very good. I like that.
What I did there.
You think Unabomber? Do you think Kane booked Trump? Or, Kane put the connection together?
Oh, I would have to think that they're all working in concert, because there's an underground, what do they call them, cabal of these Republican people that are supporting the Mango Mussolini. And this election is already the most litigated election in American history. It hasn't happened yet, because the Republicans are filing various types of suits and various types of locale, state, local, whatever, to try to restrict people from voting that they think are not going to vote for them, whether it be minorities in one place or now they're, oh no, if you're an American citizen and you live in another country, you're still allowed to vote. You're probably there for work or school or whatever the fuck it is. And people who are that successful usually tend to be smart and mostly vote Democrats. So they are trying to, in some way, raise issues with foreign citizens living abroad. I'll say it, voting. They're trying to do everything they can, because in the last, what is it, Brian? You're a smarter young man than I am, and remember these things. Out of the last 10 presidential elections, is it 8 or 9 times that the Democratic candidate has won the popular vote?
Oh, I don't know the exact number, but it's been just about every time.
It's one or the other, but because we have a 200-something-year-old electoral system that just to make sure that the people in Montana don't feel left out, you can come in second and win this thing. And that's exactly how that old Donnie did it last time. So it's not like these people need any encouragement, because it's already going to be, unfortunately and unfathomably, it's going to be close still with everything that I've just said a few minutes ago. I'm out of breath, Brian.
Well, that Paul Bearer did a shitty job raising those two.
I tell you, absentee fathers.
I thought the fire was the worst thing.
He was so busy. He was so busy in the embalming room. What was... And there's a perfect place to close, because I'm pretty sure that the same two things have been said about Donald Trump and Vince McMahon. I think by Donald Trump's niece, the clinical psychologist, and I can't remember, was it Brian Solomon that said it about Vince McMahon?
The clinical psychologist, Brian Solomon.
The clinical psychologist. So many people could have avoided so much misery if their father could have just brung themselves to hug them and tell them they loved them. And instead, we all got these people. Anyway, I
don't even understand what the conversation could be with those two. I mean, how could it not be just a fluff interview? You're not going to get anything from that, right? I mean, no matter what you think of the people involved, for what the finished product would be, it's a nothing. That's like one of those interviews where you can't really get anything. You can get attention, but you're not going to get anything.
Well, no, because Undertaker, I mean, he's, again, wonderful in-ring talent has never been, mistaken for Bob Woodward, and Trump can't complete a sentence or a coherent train of thought without just launching off into some lunacy now, or just the other night in the rally where he just stood there and danced to the hits of the oldies for 45 minutes.
Did you see that?
Blithering lunatic.
The best part is Christy Nome being stuck on stage next to him, and she can't leave. How do you awkwardly leave?
She gave him the clothes like 3 times. Let's hear it for president.
Yeah, and then she was acting out YMCA a minute later.
Yes. Does he know that the Village People were gay? But now think about this, because they're scared of gay people. Gay people are going to kidnap your children and give them sex change operations instead of going to study hall. And trans people who account for, I believe, under 1% of the population of the United States are, going to mount up against you, but they're playing a gay band's gay anthem.
It's literally about meeting other gay men at the YMCA for hookups. Yeah, that's what the song's about.
You can do whatever you feel at the YMCA. How is it? What? That's what I'm saying. What world are we living in?
Well, I understand he wants the next one to be more masculine, so they licensed Macho Man by the Village People. The only thing funnier than all that, again, it's worth watching for his dance moves. I don't even know what you call it, just staring off into space, but kind of moving certain body parts, like almost like the way a little kid dances. Like certain body parts are moving, but he's not really moving at all. And Christy Nome is stuck, and eventually she starts doing dance moves too. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen, at least today. But that was the story of The Undertaker returning from the dead.
Yes.
To kill himself. I don't know what you call that.
Kill his reputation.
Well, Jim, I don't know if you want to talk about it or talk about it here. Obviously, we have a lot to go through, and sponsors too. But another thing, I guess, that came up in the middle of this, and I don't know if it lended to your trending or if it was a separate thing altogether, but...
No, this was kind of minute and on the side next to the trending, because unfortunately,
Well, what happened with you and Val Venis, the former Val Venis? Sean Morley, I think.
Sean Morley.
Yeah.
Yes. Not to be confused with Robert Morley, the fine actor. But no, Val Venis, I've mentioned before when I worked with him in the 90s. Sean Morley, excellent worker, excellent talent. He could cut a promo, physique, looked great. Excellent in-ring worker. I was never a fan of the gimmick per se, Val Venis with the big penis, because it was a Russo-rific, deal that he came up with, because he's fascinated with men's throbbing phalluses or whatever. But great wrestler, and always enjoyed working with him as a producer, whatever the fuck, in the wrestling. We never talked politics at all. And I assumed that he was doing well wherever the fuck that he was, until a couple of years ago. I can't remember whether somebody sent it to me on Twitter saying, look at this, or I just saw it somehow, but I looked and fell down the rabbit hole, as the kids say, of his Twitter, where it was right-wing, really Republican or conspiracy theorist shit with a hint of Billy Jack Haynes going on. Can you pull up Val Venis's Twitter account?
Do I have to?
Well, no, you don't.
Well, I've been put on a list.
since we're gonna talk about, I don't know. There might be some type of monitoring going on if anybody follows this guy. But since we're gonna talk about it, I do not want to be misconstrued.
He's on he's on Twitter at Val Venis Val Venis, the big Val Boski.
Yeah, and the thing is, what I saw sometime back, whenever it was just, oh God, it wasn't even that he was. And I can't remember, honestly, whether we had any interaction at that point on the thing, or whether I just blocked it, because I thought not only is he one of these people now, but also it concerned me that he was either having some type of issue with substances or with CTE or, like I said, Billy Jack Haynes-ish type of vibe going on, because it was so over the top, really weird, right? And I blocked him. And then when this thing with the Undertaker and Kane and the flesh bag in the middle sitting there doing the promo together, and as I was trying to scroll through and get to the real people from the bots, there was somebody I was alerted to that somebody that I had blocked had said something, and somebody replied to it. He blocked you, or whatever. What the fuck? And it was Val Venis. And he was saying, "Oh, I just found out Jim Cornette blocked me." And then something, I always liked his wrestling mind, but I understand he's a communist. And I said, see,
Dude, this Twitter account is nuts.
That's what I'm saying.
This isn't even about like him being a Trump fan or a Republican or a Democrat. No. This is far beyond all of that.
No, this is some shit where you would expect if you went to his house, he's living in a room with Bible pages wallpapering the walls, and goddamn, something's happening. There potentially may be, some element of mental acuity, but in a high functioning way. I don't know how to explain it. How do you explain this?
For instance, there's a picture of some woman, I don't know who this is, posted of her with her son, little baby, in front of a Harris Waltz placard, and it says, "I just voted for his future." I don't know who this woman is. Val Venis retweeted that. "It stands to reason that any parent who votes to enslave their children to the central bankers, flat currency counterfeiting racket, and the extortion racket called the IRS should be considered abusers of children. Why is the world would you vote to enslave your children deeper into the banker state slavery racket?" To which he responded, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know all that. I take it back." No, she didn't respond at all. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, she didn't want to engage, because if somebody came up on the street in this day and age, in this country, if somebody came up to you on the street just saying that shit, you could probably get away with shooting them.
He says the extortion racket called the IRS. I'm not an IRS fan or anything, but isn't this guy Canadian? Can't he just go home?
Well, no. He used to be Canadian, but I think he lives somewhere here now, and apparently is highly upset with the state of affairs. But again, can you find a couple of others? I mean, keep the flavor going.
Oh, I'm looking at these here. I mean, he says he's anti-state. That's why I asked the question, why not leave the states? Why not go back to Canada?
Well, maybe he's just anti the state he's in, and he wants to go to another state, but he can't because of the state he's in. Maybe he just dropped in to see what condition his condition was in.
Once again, a couple people, just random people seemingly voting that they, or posting that they voted in North Carolina for Harris. "Thanks for voting to deepen our slavery into higher taxes, higher prices, fewer opportunities with far fewer jobs. Much appreciated. SMDH. P.S. Enslaving your old children deeper into the central bank's counterfeiting racket and their extortion arm called the IRS is child abuse."
He's mad at the banks. I'm telling you, somebody over at his local branch of fucking Chase has pissed him the fuck off.
This is fact. Since 1913, with the federal government's imposition of direct taxation on citizens, Patrick Henry has been constantly rolling in his grave. By the way, this is under fact.
That's fact. Yeah. We have underground camera footage of the bones of Patrick Henry that have been continually spinning. We can't explain it.
Until his final days, Henry warned that human nature, when combined with unchecked power, would inevitably lead to the very system we now accept as normal, direct federal taxation, and the growth of a collective Stockholm syndrome towards government authority. Henry firmly believed that the national government should rely on requisitions from the states for any funding or resources they may need If the federal government's requests were truly in the public interest, the states would willingly contribute the necessary funds and resources, thus preserving state sovereignty and limiting federal overreach. This man pays for a checkmark to do all this.
Wait a minute. So what he's saying is, oh shit, there's a goddamn hurricane. It's wiped out Miami. The federal government needs to call Mississippi, Georgia, and Alabama to see if they'll send some stuff down to help out. The fuck?
What is this? Wow, Exhibit A for why government education should be completely eradicated from American soil. Roots and all! This is shocking that a human being actually believes that communism is just a group of human beings growing roses, farting strawberry-scented bubbles, and washing each other's feet like they are Jesus. SMDH. In quotes, no government is a communist society? Really? Wow. He seems to be he really has a problem with the communists.
Yeah, and the banks, and the communists, and apparently the people that fart strawberries.
See, I don't even know how much of this I could read. There's an image here. Obama resettled 70,000 Somalians to Minnesota. They elected Omar. Planned? You bet it was. The global communist counterfeiting cartel, particularly through its banking systems, strategically installed Obama for 2 terms to initiate the prolonged and deliberate dismantling of American freedom, liberty, and culture. Their ultimate aim is to erode the foundations of Western society, including the core pillars that sustain it: faith in God and the nuclear family. So again, let me stop here.
Yes, please do stop there.
He seems to have a lot to say. And he's on Twitter, 61 people like this tweet, 41 people like this. Does he have a job? Does he work, or is this all he does?
I don't know. Maybe he's on disability. Maybe is somebody keeping an eye on. I don't know if he's married. Don't know if he has a family. Don't know where he lives. Don't know anything about his personal situation. Hate to see that it has come to this. It's sometimes depressing to see what happens to some of the folks from my generation, but I don't know how to explain what's happening here.
Is this all because Wally Yamaguchi cut off his cock?
No, he wasn't. He didn't chop it to pee-pee. He did not chop it. And maybe that's where a wrestler's exaggeration, that's where the story grew about sex changes during the school day.
From
Val Venis got his pee-pee chopped off by Kaientai.
Well, someone, one of the clickbait magnets out there tweeted, do you think Jim Cornette should take up Val Venis's offer for a debate? Which, of course, he retweeted, the debate would be epic.
Wait a minute. Mr. Wordsmith had a 4-word answer?
And then again, people were like engaging him, and then it just...
Are they engaging him ironically, as the kids say?
I don't know. This person said, I don't have a communism pipe dream, as I'm not here advocating for communism. I'm just here proving that you are just another undereducated mouthpiece for fear-mongering. You continue to speak of dictatorships, which have nothing to do with communism. Please do some actual reading.
Yeah, he's actually insulted the communists because he's got them all wrong.
So here's Val Venis's reply. Wrong! Given the realities of human nature, communism will never exist without a powerful dictatorship. Your understanding of the subject seems rather misguided, and spare me the unsolicited advice to read more. I've been devouring books nearly every day since I was 17, so I'm quite well acquainted with the literature. I'm
very good at the reading. I do a little bit of the reading every day.
I am well acquainted with the literature. The books I've read and put much effort into comprehending, the material on communism over the years include The Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. The Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. I read it 4 times.
How about Karl Moxley?
Hey, now you're talking. Hey, you know what? Now, maybe that is what they're doing. But anyway, the Communist Manifesto by Karl Moxley read 4 times in 1 year.
What?
Das Kapital by Karl Marx.
Was he serving time?
The State and the Revolution by Vladimir Lenin. I read it twice. 1917. Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism by Vladimir Lenin. 1916. The Principles of Communism. He's just listing every book about communism he's read. Dude, let it be clear. We are not the same. If you still feel the need to question my grasp of communism, just ask any
to a guy on Twitter.
Just ask any talent from the Attitude Era where they could find me. They'll tell you I was either in catering, engrossed in political tome, or in the locker room reading political books, or debating the nuances of politics with Kane and Al Snow every single day. So let's stop right there. That was part of Kane's locker room political group. Al Snow and Val Venis.
You know what now? Remember all those times I've cursed at Vince McMahon for taking up all of my time and these endless production meetings and the things and blah, 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 and being so busy on... I didn't have time to sit down and hear any of this drivel from these fucking people.
Well, again, just scrolling through here, he seems that he's against vaccine. Oh, here, you're mentioned here. Apparently, I'm now the poster child for clueless about communism, according to the internet and experts, Twitter experts, especially after my exchange with Jim Cornette. Seems I'm also getting the VIP treatment from those who comment on pro wrestling news. And he names a bunch of those outlets where they've declared me totally ignorant on the topic of communism. Cute, right? After posting about communism for years and calling out America's slow march into it, I'm now being lectured by wrestling fans on geopolitics. So here's a challenge for the armchair scholars who spend their time cheering on Comrade Sami Zayn.
Where did he come from? Out of nowhere.
Who spend their time cheering on Comrade Sami Zayn.
Fucking does a run in out of nowhere. Sami Zayn in the conversation.
And his commie ilk. Read my last post on the basics of communism and show me exactly where I'm wrong. Go ahead. I'll wait. I clearly have plenty of time. I'll clearly wait. All right, well, apparently Sami Zayn.
I'll wait till you do. So here's the question, because has anybody talked about Val Venis or Sean Morley, formerly known as Val Venis? Has he done conventions of late? Has he appeared at any? You haven't seen him on TV in however long. Is it a situation going on where he's in a place where they let you have internet, but the door's locked from the inside and you're not supposed to go out on your own?
Well, they say it's tough to overcome your porn past once you move on into society. Did you see he responded to you after you unblocked him?
Yes, that's what he said. He said I was a communist before.
Yeah, that was before.
And then what did he say after? I think I saw one.
Thanks for the unblock, Jim. It's comforting to know a fellow wrestling icon is concerned about my mental health.
Oh, that's
just a heads up.
Because I unblocked him. I unblocked him and I wrote to him. I said, Val, I blocked you a while back because I was concerned it was either, drugs or CTE, basically. I don't know what's going on, but I wanted, to let you know why, that I blocked you.
I'm not a right winger. Not even close. Just an anti-state, God-fearing anarchist.
So he believes in all this stuff, including God, but he ain't a fan of the state or the anti-anarchy or what.
Just an anti-state, God-fearing anarchist, keeping the conversation lively, educational, and productive. Who knew? expressing anti-state pro-God views would trigger such mental meltdowns by you and your statist ilk. He likes the word ilk. But hey, keep up.
Because I've been a long time representative of the state.
Of the communist ilk. But hey, keep up the fight against us lunatics with CTE. It must be quite the workout. Here's to engaging in some awesome discourse. Love you commie. P.S. I'd love to interview you for my live stream sometime if you're interested. Call it the battle of the pro-nanny state, anti-freedom, anti-God statist versus the anti-state, pro-freedom.
Wait a minute. Start that again. Start that description again of who the battle is between.
You can call it the battle of the pro-nanny state, anti-freedom, anti-God statist versus the anti-state, pro-freedom, gun-fearing anarchist. Let me know. You might learn something.
Learn something? I can't even keep track of whose side I'm supposed to be on and whose side I'm supposed to be against with that description. You know, I can't do the debate if I can't remember what I'm for or not.
I'm no fan of communism or anything, but this guy's used the word commie or communism more than anyone since McCarthy.
Yeah.
When was the last time you heard people just ranting in the streets about the commies, the commies?
Wait a minute. I'm trying to think how
better dead than red.
How old would he have needed to be? I'm trying to think if we find out that actually he was adopted and his real name was Sean McCarthy.
There's a comeback angle.
You can't, how do you, that's the thing with, again, debating or trying to reason with or discussing or arguing or whatever the discourse is with some of the really bad Trumpers is that if you're not talking about the same real world and one person is just saying, they're eating the dogs and they sent the fucking Hannibal Lecter over here who he's talked about. Well, they sent him and just all this fantasy. How do you respond to that otherwise than ask somebody to please, the handler needs to come and get this person and take them back to where they keep an eye on these people.
See, I'd like to hear more. Maybe he could debate the Undertaker. Do you think he'll deal with mid-Carter's The Undertaker? I think it would be a fascinating talk.
So I get, would Val be on The Undertaker's side, or is he anti some of that too?
No, Kane works for the state. He's part of the problem.
He's pretty much running one of the biggest towns in the state, so he'd be right up there in the top 5.
You think he should attack Mike Rotunda? IRS? He hates the IRS.
Well, I think he knew probably that Mike was just doing it because he needed the money.
This is a fact. Patrick Henry's rolling over at his grave right now.
It's a fact. It's a natural phenomenon. The likes of which we've never seen before. How would you, again, if anybody knows and some independent third party that what's happening with Sean Morley, and is he somewhere where they can care for him or attend to his needs, or is there anything that, that maybe we can do? What's going on? Does he have a roof over his head? And is he getting any kind of treatment? I don't know what else to say.
Hey, serious question about his wrestling career. The Val Venis gimmick was pretty good, and he was perfect in the role, and obviously people still remember that. But did the gimmick put a ceiling on how far he can go considering his talent?
Today, they revamp people sometimes, and it seems to work, a la L.A. Knight from, what was his name?
Max Dupree.
Max Dupree. The illegitimate nephew of Rene Dupree. That was right at a time where, with Austin on top and Rock on top and Undertaker and, and the ratings through the roof, he was kind of typecast. He was like, did you ever see Darren from Bewitched on another program and not think, well, there's Darren from Bewitched. Either one of them. So that's the thing is after...
That happened to me the other day watching The Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
There you go. It doesn't look right because you're used to, people get typecast. Johnny Weissmuller, after the Tarzan series ended, didn't branch out into anything but Jungle Jim. He was not doing romantic leads in drawing room comedies. And then did Val do anything after 2001? I'm seriously trying to remember. Was he with TNA?
Well, didn't they bring him? They either brought him back or he was still being used and they repackaged him. Remember, he became, was it Bischoff's second in command? Something more
in TNA?
No, in WWE. In WWE.
No, hear me what I'm telling you again, boy. What I'm saying to you, Senator Claghorn, is what I'm saying to you. After 2001, WCW is done, ECW is done, it's only WWE, and then TNA forms, a year and a half later. The point is, what became of Val Venis and or Sean Morley's wrestling career after 2001?
Yeah,
or what field of endeavor has he gotten into since then that has maybe potentially led to whatever's going on here? I don't know.
According to Wikipedia, he became a member of the Right to Censor in 2000, went back to the Big Valboski in 2002, then became the chief of staff by Bischoff, that's what I was thinking of, 2003, and then from 2003 to 2009, according to this, he was still working with WWE and for WWE. And then independent.
Doing what? Was Val Venis was he still a porn star at that point when they were PG?
In late 2007, he began a feud with Santino Marella.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
During the feud, Marella gave Venis a sneak attack, causing him an injury. And then he lost to Mr. Kennedy. It was during that era where I really stopped watching a lot of these shows.
Well, I was about to say, I didn't remember him actually after the 90s being on television. So I apologize for that.
He was in TNA in 2010.
Was I there then? I wasn't there then. What's he done for us lately? Does it say he was struck by a car and sustained serious brain injury in 2012 or something? Anything to explain what's going on here before we wrap this up?
No. That's really, he's just
anything like for the past 12 years, we don't know what the fuck. Is there that line there?
Apparently he's on Twitter. Apparently he's very active on Twitter.
Well, we've established that.
He's been a later career from 2010 to 2019. He worked for Elite Extreme Wrestling, now known as the Future Stars of Wrestling. He defeated Rhett Titus in Franklin, Pennsylvania. These are one of the career highlights here.
Ooh.
On an IWC Night of Legends event. 3 events later, he challenged John McChesney for the IWC.
No, he didn't get up in old Big John's face, did he?
For the IWC World Heavyweight Championship, but he was unsuccessful. He then returned to Canada, wrestling for Championship Wrestling International, where he defeated Sylvain Grenier in Lindsay, Ontario, Canada, and then he defeated Chris Masters the following day. In 2012, he lost to his former partner Big Daddy V in New York City for ECPW 5 boroughs. In 2013, he returned to Canada once again.
Is this his entire schedule for the year? Or what?
Seemingly working with Manitoba's Canadian Wrestling Elite and British Columbia's Elite Canadian Championship Wrestling. Well, they were really using Elite for a lot of those companies up there in Canada years before. Interesting. He reunited with former partner The Godfather. He toured England for House of Pain Evolution, where he defeated Marty Scurll in
Wait a minute. House of Pain Evolution.
That's right.
Of course, makes actually no sense, but the acronym is HOPE.
Oh, there you go.
So we'll come up with a name that makes no sense, but it'll be a cool logo. Go ahead.
Well, that's 2015, the last thing listed here, and what a way to go out. April 5th, 2019, Morley teamed with Joey Ryan
Oh, Jesus.
And Sexy Eddie
Oh,
losing to Scarlett Bordeaux, Priscilla Kelly, and Martina
wait,
in a 6-tag intergender match
wait.
at WrestleCon's Joey Ryan's penis party in New York City. And that is the last listed match on
my
Wikipedia.
God. So his last wrestling appearance was being beaten by a girl on a show run by a pervert and sex pest.
Well, he was also teaming with the pervert and sex pest.
Well, it goes without saying.
He's not just a promoter, also a partner.
He's not just the owner, he's also a member. The Penis Club for Men. That's what they should have called the team there. All right. So again, that's 5 years ago. Perhaps he was struck in the head by a falling safe. I don't know. I'm not cussing Val Venis and saying he's Sean Morley and he's a horrible person, but because there's obviously something happening. But again, I register my disappointment at a lot of people that I've formerly known that apparently there's something happening.
Hey, where's the money? Mr. Communist, I thought you were supposed to share the wealth. Where's the money?
Well,
where's the money, corny?
I've been sitting it out in front of your doorstep every month. It's not my fault you're too lazy to go out and pick it up before somebody steals it.
When's the action figure variant with a new red jacket, Mr. Communism?
I've already had that. That was the original. The red jacket and the yellow pants. My red and yellow outfit was that was a subtle hint, yellow journalism, red scare,
You see, you got involved in the business at a young age and you were influenced by the wrong people. And sitting there with Volkov and Darso, I think they led you down the wrong path. And Nikita and Uncle Ivan, you were around a lot of communists now that I think about it.
You know what? It wasn't any of them. It was Jerry Novak, the Russian invader. He's the one that got to me first.
Were any Russian gimmick wrestlers, actually communists?
It wasn't. Who am I thinking of? Was it George Gordienko? Didn't they say that he potentially was a real communist and
never came back? Yeah.
And yes, and never went away or went overseas and didn't come back or whatever. So, but I'm in the modern era. I don't know. Who the fuck knows?
All right.
Maybe at one point, maybe Mike Boyette was on enough drugs that he became a communist for 2 weeks or whatever, but who knows?
Well, that was The Undertaker and Val Venis. Who from the Attitude Era will we take down next today, Jim?
Well, no, I gotta, before we move on, real quick, I gotta tell you what I did the other night. I went to see Hotchkiss Featherbottom's one-man show.
What?
That he put, no, this is not even a rib. It is not hyperbole.
Yeah, okay.
He put on a one-man show over at the Clarksville Little Theater in Clarksville, Indiana, right across the bridge.
Oh, was it called I Know Nothing About Technology?
No, now quit harassing him. He's a wonderful young man. But it was a fundraising event for the theater. They do productions there in the community. They're doing Dracula, as a matter of fact. Not Hotchkiss. He doesn't have the teeth for it. But the point being, he put on a one-man show because there was have you ever heard of a guy named Stephen Banks?
Off the top of my head, I don't know the name, no.
Okay, well, he's more behind the scenes in modern times, but he had a Showtime special when Showtime in 1989, I think. Remember, it was Showtime and HBO. They were competitors back then. And he got a Showtime special. It was a one-man show that he had written and performed called Home Entertainment Center, where briefly a guy that's having trouble he hates his job and his boss is on him, and he lives in an apartment that his landlord's trying to kick him out, and he's having trouble with his girlfriend, and he comes home after his job, and for the next hour and 15 minutes or so, he wastes time doing some shit that he has to do but he doesn't want to do while he gets phone calls, which you hear on the message machine or his end of the call from all these people that are harassing him until finally at the end, he loses his job. He's getting kicked out of his apartment and he's broken up with his girlfriend. But then he suddenly gets the dream he's been wanting of being a rock and roll star, and you got a happy ending. And he's the only, and in the process of doing this play with the dialogue and everything, one man show, not only did he sing about 6 songs, but he played the electric guitar, the acoustic guitar, the bass guitar, a banjo, a ukulele, a harmonica, the drums. There's something else I'm leaving out, and a flute. And part of the time he was playing the flute, it was with his right nostril. And it was an amazing, I'm not even kidding again. I'm not kidding. You had to see this thing. He got it on tape, I believe. Somebody shot it on VHS. But it was a wonderful thing, and a lot of his family was there, and he did a wonderful job. I just wanted to send a special applause out to Hotchkiss Featherbottom. Home Entertainment Center by Stephen Banks, performed, as I mentioned, by Hotchkiss Featherbottom. You should have seen him.
No.
I'm telling you, the drums were excellent. I mean, the drums. He's an excellent drummer, not drugger.
I thought you were saying there were drugs. I was like, yeah, maybe I did miss something.
No, it was a very calm and staid audience. There wasn't like a bunch of hippies running around being wild and crazy or anything from
they're on lewds,
the Grateful Dead or whatever. But no, and also the banjo too. Did a good, and the ukulele, as a matter of fact. I'm trying to think. He played something else. The harmonica.
How many people were there?
I don't know. I was in the front row and I didn't turn around.
What kind of answer is that? What the hell is that?
I'm telling you.
Oh, well, it was either a packed house or...
He did it Friday night and Saturday night. I was there on Saturday night. I don't know that but see, now there was opposition because this place called Derby Dinner Playhouse is right like 2 blocks down the same fucking road, and they sell out every weekend. They've been there like 50 years, and there's goddamn 300 cars in the parking lot. It looks like a Lakers game. So, and right on the other side of the hill and around the corner is, poor Hotchkiss. He was running outlaw that night. I told him, I said, fuck, get out there and salt the fucking popcorn. You'll sell more drinks.
I've never gone to dinner theater. Have you?
I've had dinner and then gone to the theater, but I've never had both of it perpetrated on me at the same time.
I don't even know how it would react. Like the show's happening around you while you eat?
Well, no, I believe in some cases they actually come up and eat some of the food off your plate, but I think you have to check.
Yeah, that Tony and Tina's wedding. Isn't that the one that they do that?
Yeah, well, you have to check the menu to, at the start to see whether are you allowing our employees to eat off of your plate or not.
You know what I always wanted to do, in the sense that like I didn't really want to do it, so I never did it, but I'm still curious. Medieval times. Those commercials have been airing on local TV for years, and I never went. I guess I still could, but I never have.
But here's the thing: they're actually, they have horses and they run around and joust and do the things that they do in the medieval times, right?
So the horses never get hungry and charge into the crowd and start eating people's food?
Well, no, I'm asking you, they do have horses, right? Because I've seen, you see the pictures and shit.
Yeah, there's like javelins and all sorts of shit.
Yeah, well, regardless of whether, suddenly you're trying to fucking cut your steak and you're going to get skewered with an off-kilter javelin, but do you want horses even running around kicking up dust in where you're eating dinner, or they're going to be farting? And I would imagine they don't bathe the horse before each seating of dinner. So do you really want to be eating while you're in a barn with horses?
You ever think about how much better every single major city in the country smells today than it did 100 years ago? Or 150 years ago?
Yes, because you see the not only the pictures, but when they do the documentaries, they mention that, of course, sewage was almost impossible because of lack of modern sewers, combined with the literal shit in the streets everywhere from every animal in the New York with the horse-drawn carriages, and they're just dumping manure everywhere. Then the next people are walking in it. Then they're carrying it into their homes. And then they've got shit all over their fucking floors and all over their rugs, which they can't clean because they haven't got shampooers or steamers. And then their kids roll around in the filth and the muck and the degradation and the pestilence. And then they hug and kiss their children. And they swap the fecal matter from lip to lip and tongue to tongue until finally everybody's got some kind of goddamn horrible gut poisoning. So that's what cars have done for us.
All right, this has been Happy Talk.
Well, you know, speaking, I was talking about Hotchkiss Featherbottom before.
Yeah, sadly.
Yes, let me just mention now he's back to live action at JimCornette.com and Cornette's Collectibles, where, as I mentioned on the last program, already the first, I don't know, now to 100, 150 packages are in the pipeline to go out and more on the way from our big on sale that happened a couple of weeks ago that is still going on. The last Jim Cornette action figure variant, you can see pictures right now at JimCornette.com. And you can get them for half price if you order any tag team set. And, of course, the thank you, fuck you, bye t-shirts have been flying out the doors now that they're back on sale. And don't forget, you can sign up for email blasts if you go to JimCornette.com. And down at the bottom of the homepage says sign up for newsletter. Put your email address in. Each week in November, one item from our voluminous store is going to go on sale for a deep discount. This has been orchestrated by Hotchkiss Featherbottom. It's a new marketing campaign. It's called a temporary sale in a holiday season. It's going to catch on. I know it is. And we'll tell you what it is every week as they happen via the email blast that he invented. And he plays the flute with his right nostril, ladies and gentlemen. Or was it the left? I don't know. He was facing me. I'm sitting there. And then he was looking back to see if I was looking back to see if he was looking back to see if I was looking back to see if he was looking back at me.
Yeah. JimCornette.com.
That's the place to go.
That's the place to go. Get your customizable figure of Communist Corny. Commie Corny. Comrade Corny. Comrade Corny.
You know what? All those times that Nikolai Volkov offered to teach me the Russian national anthem, and God damn it, I didn't take him up on it. Now I could use it.
Yeah, someone should have offered to teach him it.
Hey!
I don't think he was singing the Russian national anthem. I think it was a different song.
But it sounded like it.
It sounded official. No, it did.
Yeah, it sounded very official. He had the tone in his voice that made him somewhat authoritarian on that. Well, now, Brian, we got to talk about some more bloviating flesh bags that have interfered with my time over the last few days. You had me watch, where does Piers Morgan do this program that I watched part of or some of or a little bit of?
I could be wrong. I think it's a YouTube thing.
Well, you send me the clip. You don't even know where. What are you, one of these people that's just now taking this random shit on?
Well, I sent it to you from YouTube. I don't know if that's the official home, but
Stacey got a email the other day, or a video sent to her the other day from somebody she knows of breaking news. And there was no bug on the screen, and it was complete B-roll of everything with this frantic voiceover of how that these clothes made in a certain factory are going to cause obesity, cancer, and the rotting of your fallopian tubes.
Oh my God! And what factory?
Well, and that's the thing. I don't know. They identified the brand apparently that was selling these clothings, many of the clothing. But the point is, everything. It was like, when they would go to a graphic of like the headline, right? Like you would see in the newspaper, like the headline, New York Times headline reads, no, it's just a headline. And down below it says news. and there's no website and there's no source identified and nobody's willing to put their name on this. But people believe this shit. Oh, where was I going with? So the Piers Morgan thing. Well, hold on. Because you sent me this link. It's on the YouTube, but let's see if there's a bug on the screen. You can't hear that, can you? I hope not. My YouTube. There we go. Okay. This is Piers Morgan Uncensored. And there ain't no network bug on this either, is there? He just does his own show from a studio that says Piers Morgan Uncensored.
That's the beauty of modern day. You can do what you needed a network for on your own if you can't find the network to do it with you.
Well, he's uncensored this way, except he's on YouTube. How can he say he's uncensored if he's on YouTube?
That's true.
Anyway,
that's very true.
So he did this program, and how long is this son of a bitch? About 45 minutes, and I didn't have time and I couldn't take it. But a lot of the folks on Twitter, again, what do you think about this? And they've sent the questions in, so we did want to address it. I saw the meat of the matter, so to speak, or the meathead of the matter. But for the folks who don't know, apparently Piers Morgan on his show that's uncensored to a degree had a debate about whether Vince McMahon is a sociopath or not. That's the quote. Sociopath, Vince McMahon WWE debate plus shock guest. And the panel for this is Maven. You remember Maven, Brian, from Tough Enough?
Yeah, Tough Enough.
What, almost 20 years ago, I guess it would have been now.
Give or take, yeah.
And he was in OVW for a while. I was still there. So, yes, it was 20 years. And nice guy, don't have anything bad to say about him. But they were talking about it in large part on this thing. They got into the scandals of the 80s and the Ring Boy and the thing because of the shock guest coming up. And also at the same time, yeah, Maven worked there, but so did Howie the mailroom guy. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about Maven again, but I watched a guy fly a plane one time. That doesn't mean that I'm qualified to go on a talk show and discuss whether or not the chairman of the board of Delta is, doing the right thing, whatever.
Well, that's the thing, too. It's not just about WWE. They all could speak to WWE. It's about Vince specifically and what kind of relationship did a Maven or, anyone else there have with Vince.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Maven didn't get to spend a lot of quality time with chairman, as JR calls him. But Maven's there. He's an ex-wrestler, right? Then we got Jonathan Coachman. I swear to God, if I ever am picked up for jaywalking even, I wouldn't want Jonathan Coachman as my lawyer. I'd get the fucking chair. He has a way, even when he's telling some semblance of the truth, he has a way of looking like he's trying to weasel his way out of something, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just the tone that comes off, and when he was asked a question at one point about, well, I did just... No, he didn't plead his case very well, and he's wearing a T-shirt that says straight to the... I can't see. Is it straight to the potty? Straight to the fucking whatever? At least Maven's dressed up. He's got a jacket. He's got a tie on. Coachman's there in a T-shirt. Then we get to... Oh, and by the way, Charlie, what is her name? Charlie what?
I don't know. We could just call her Charlie what?
Well, she was an interviewer.
Yeah.
Some years ago. I think Charlie, opera singer, Charlie Pavarotti, Charlie Caruso.
Oh.
Is who the name that she used then. Well, I don't remember.
I was going to say Netrebko, but anyway.
No, he was a Polish yodeler.
No, Anna Netrebko.
Oh, that's his sister.
She did a fantastic La Traviata years ago. But anyway, back to this.
Well, I had an aunt that did a fabulous lasagna. It's just everybody's got their own specialty. But anyway, she's a big right-wing Republican nut, apparently. So she was defending the evil billionaire that was accused of sexual assault, potentially of her co-workers. And then we come to, from his very own man cave, shit-stain himself, the show was Russo-rific, where... Until the surprise guest came on, I got to be honest with you, it degenerated to where Shitstain was kind of like the most knowledgeable, articulate person on his panel. Maven was trying to be nice to everybody. Coachman apparently believed he was being interrogated, and Charlie
was happy for the gig.
Charlie was just happy to be sitting there in front of the skyline of Chicago or wherever the fuck she's at, on the green screen. And then they bring the surprise guest in after they've spent like 10 minutes on a segment talking about, well, if Phil Mushnick had besides Russo, I was the only one in this conversation. Russo and me were the only ones that were involved in any of this when Phil Mushnick was actually writing this shit. But it's such a heel program. So they're all disreputable in some fashion or just disinvolved or, not really apprised of the situation. But point being, they spend 10 minutes saying Mushnick was just burying Vince. He had an axe to grind. He's lying. He's cheating. He's stealing. He's no good. Sorry, gum bumping sack of snake feces. And then Piers Morgan says, well, I got a surprise guest, Phil Mushnick. And he's got to be 75 now or and he comes on and the other ones don't really know what to do. And immediately shit-stained senses, I've got a fucking way to get some attention here. And he and Mushnick start screaming at each other. And goddamn, the problem is Russo has no shouting voice. It's not like that when he gets mad or over the top or yelling that he sounds more aggressive. He sounds worse. He sounds less. But anyway, then they go at each other, and then Mushnick utters the classic line after he's been broed to death. He said, "Don't call me bro." And that worked for about 30 seconds until bro was calling him bro again. Again, both of some things can be true. Both sides could be full of shit, or both sides could have a point. But this was a horrible put together collection of people to argue about anything, because then, Russo wouldn't quit. He and Mushnick he's screaming at Mushnick, and Mushnick is like, well, if you'd let me finish. And Maven just sat back and shut up. And again, Charlie was, I don't know, thinking about a more happier times, whatever the fuck. And Piers Morgan loves it because he's got this chaos on his air. But the Russo say, I was a journalist, bro. I was a journalist. He was like he was Bob Woodward. He was the guy from his own self-funded wrestling radio show that he was paying to.
No, that was the Arezzi stuff.
On the air.
That was the stuff that broke up him and Arezzi.
Well, that's true. It wasn't even his. He was paying for it to be on the air. It wasn't even his show. It was Arezzi's.
And he completely misrepresented a lot of the stuff that actually happened. And Mushnick actually had him. And then Russo tried to pretend like he won because where are they? Show me the negative stuff I wrote. And, he doesn't have the newsletters with him, obviously, in the studio. But he was, according to John Arezzi was pushed into starting a newsletter for his radio show by Russo.
Yep.
Russo, who graduated with a journalism...
he wanted to be a writer, bro.
Well, he graduated with a journalism degree, but I don't know that he actually wrote anywhere before then. And then it was under the guise of being a journalist with Pro Wrestling Spotlight, which he had been for months.
And also because I didn't know Clown Boy here, but I knew John Arezzi and was at his first weekend of Champions, so I saw the Pro Wrestling Spotlight bulletins and newsletters, whatever you want to call them. And I was like, but what the fuck? It's a local radio show, right? It's not supposed to be on the newsstands at, Times Square.
And you'd be surprised if you were told someone from that newsletter had a journalism degree is the other big thing.
That would have been a more shocking development than, if it was like, okay, this is the best we can all do. I've seen some slap together shit in the wrestling business, but if you're talking someone that actually was trained in this endeavor, no, fuck no.
But
bro.
When he says, I went there as a journalist and I saw that Vince's side wasn't getting out and I wanted to be fair and give him a chance, that's very different than I went there as someone who had just got in with Arezzi, took over this newsletter thing, and immediately met Vince and Linda and figured out a way in for WWE and worked on it for a few years. Because that's what it was.
And the split with Arezzi, who started the radio program, and Russo was the sponsor, came because Russo was saying, but bro, if we don't bury these guys, they'll give us guests and they'll send the wrestlers over to be on our show, bro.
And instead, the show actually reported on what was happening in the news. It wasn't ignoring what was in the newspaper. And that part's true. The other part that's true is that Phil Mushnick's a fucking miserable guy.
Yes.
I read the New York Post. Let me give you the last several headlines, just the headlines of his column. Clueless TBS has made ALCS unwatchable. Vin Scully would be dumbfounded by today's MLB broadcasters' incessant screaming. MLB's abysmal playoff coverage somehow finds a way to hit a new low. Playoffs can't keep MLB networks from insulting their viewers. Greed has made a mess of the MLB playoffs. There was nothing redeeming in Pete Rose's character. How to fix insufferable NFL pregame shows. Shohei Ohtani's historic season enabling MLB's money first con. NFL's treatment of fans creating once unfathomable ticket reality. Sports would have already moved on from past concern for athletes' health. It's just one thing after another after another.
Well, remember when we talked about him, for whatever reason, it came up a few weeks ago on one of the shows. When I said it wasn't like just a crusade against Vince. Vince McMahon is a horrible person individually, whatever. Then I wouldn't have been able to work up a lot of indignation, but he was this horrible attitude, this fucking snotty, self-important, condescending wise ass with this axe to grind with the world, this miserable malcontent and nattering nabob of negativity. The way that he presented it, it wasn't Vince, it was everybody in the wrestling business is a piece of human slime, and the wrestling business is the lowest thing that could possibly exist, and anybody who watches this stuff is a complete goddamn idiot and buffoon, and fuck all of y'all, and it all ought to be stopped. That was the attitude. And so that's why I said sometimes all of these people can be assholes. Yes, they're all either out to get a fucking spot on Piers Morgan Uncensored for some attention, or because they were called up and they like to do interviews or whatever the fuck. But that doesn't mean that Phil Mushnick is not most miserable, malcontented, complaining, griping, professional fucking shit disturbers of modern journalism history.
Yeah, and it's not to say he's not right about things. But again, everything is the negative side. Here's a few more headlines.
Yes.
Sports TV remains bereft of dignity and common sense. Too many broadcasters have too much fluff rather than opting for silence. I'll agree with him on that. John Smoltz is really good. He needs to shut the fuck up every now and then. Here's one. ESPN's disgusting influence is infiltrating Little League World Series. And maybe the last one here. What made Huck to a girl first pitch for Mets even more shameful? And he may be right about that. Apparently, the game she threw out the opening pitch for was camp day, where like the camps come in the middle of the summer to the baseball game. And you're to throw out the opening pitch. Google her, kids.
Mommy, can I see that girl on your phone?
See, I always loved camp.
But anyway, yeah, so they're still debating Vince's conduct or the good, the bad, and the ugly of it or whatever. And then this was a cast of characters and the big aha moment when here came Phil Mushnick to defend himself, and it degenerated into chaos.
It was like they wanted to do a show on wrestling, and they should. It'll get viewers, and the Vince thing is in the headlines. A lot of people I know who don't like wrestling, some don't even know I have anything to do with wrestling, have mentioned watching the Vince McMahon thing. So it's more about people remembering things from their childhood and now learning that he may be a disgusting pervert.
Well, yeah, just the other day I watched a documentary on the history of bluegrass music, I haven't been in the bluegrass music business, but I watched a documentary on that, so I can see that. But thing is, neither Bill Monroe nor Ralph Stanley nor Flatt and Scruggs, none of them were apparently were sex pests. So,
Well, my point was going to be I can understand wanting to do a show about all this. You'll get viewers. This was the panel they can get?
no, that's the problem. That's the panel they could get, apparently.
Like you said, I'm not a Russo supporter, but he was at least there during the Attitude Era, and quite frankly, he's just going to spin a Vince defense, which is kind of what he was doing. Charlie? Like, she was there for a few years recently. And then Maven hasn't been around in a while, but, at least he's, like, active with a podcast and stuff. When was the last time you heard of Coachman? After he got fired from ESPN, I haven't heard anything about him.
Oh, I didn't even know he got fired from ESPN, did I? Or do I care enough that I knew and I forgot?
Was that a sex pest situation too?
I don't know. It depends on what his T-shirt says here in this thing. I wonder if I could get a close-up of...
Let's clarify this before we wrap this up, because we may have to edit that out.
Straight to the pay window is what it says, I guess. Well, wait, straight to the pay something. I can't see the shot. Yeah, straight to the pay window. That's what it says. So he's just apparently wearing one of his gambling sponsors, or possibly he has an issue of his own. That's why we haven't seen him lately. He's out on the streets. I don't know. But it looks like he should have, if he wanted to be taken as an expert in something, at least put on a collared shirt. For heaven's sake, pal. Piers is not even wearing a tie on his own show, though.
Yeah, I have something here. This is from 2018. WWE's investigating announcer Jonathan Coachman. Remember, Vince brought him back. I forgot all about that at the end. Investigating announcer Jonathan Coachman amid allegations that he sexually harassed a coworker during his time at ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. I think it's, the truth is, I think it's
wait a minute, Vince brought him back. Vince was assembling all of the team together of anybody who'd ever been affiliated with any kind of sexual persuasion or whatever.
Connecticut way.
Gonna give her a dirty Connecticut.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's it. That's the Mushnick Russo. Both guys looked horrible. Mushnick looked unhinged. That's the other thing. He couldn't really articulate his argument quick. So no matter what, he was getting just trounced, and then he was like, yeah, yeah. You got to say something. You actually have an argument.
Yeah, yeah, Well, I'll tell you, you know what? All of them, to be honest, they look older than they are. They're not aging well. Maybe Charlie, but it'll catch up with her. Erosion will set in sooner or later, but they need to take better care of themselves. And I think if they were cutting down on the sugar and the carbs, and they were upping the protein and trying to drink things that taste good, but at the same time are better for you than the packaged products with the poisons in them that we see today on our shelves of our stores. Brian, I think if they had just, before they did that program, if each one of them had popped the top on a delicious 30-gram protein shake, chocolate fudge from our friends at Orgain, and downed that bad boy, they'd have been in a better mood for that whole program, wouldn't they?
I absolutely think so. I start every day with one. They're so delicious. It's like having an ice cream cake or a chocolate cake for breakfast.
Well, except it's liquid, so it's not really like having a cake.
Well, it tastes like it. It's a delicious taste for.
Well, you could say it tastes like a delicious chocolate milkshake. You'd get at one of those 50s diners on the side of the road where some girl in a sweater next to you with her cleavage, protruding there, would smile and wink at you while you sipped your shake with a cherry on top, and then later on she'd give you her cherry off of her milkshake.
Well, that wasn't on Happy Days.
It tastes like that, folks. And boy, I'll tell you what, you can try it and see that you get all 9 essential amino acids. Were you aware, Brian, that there's only 9 essential amino acids?
I get upset when I get something and there's only 7 of them or 6.
Well, you don't have to worry about that with Orgain's 30-gram protein shake because they're an excellent source of complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids. It gives you energy to keep going, muscle support and recovery to go further, maintaining a healthy lifestyle to even go further. By the time you get there, you won't know where the fuck you're at. It helps manage hunger. It promotes healthy weight management in combination with diet and exercise, or you could just go on naked and afraid. You'll lose some fucking weight, but it's easier drinking this shit. And only 1 gram of sugar per serving, no soy ingredients, no artificial flavors or sweeteners or all of the various artificial things that can get you in trouble and make your innards turn to jelly. And you can do it easily because Dr. Andrew Abraham, who is a fine purveyor of nutrition all his life, he's supported and promoted the idea you got to have nutrition. You know what Dr. Andrew Abraham said to Mama Cornette one time?
No.
He said, "I'd rather eat good food than bad food any day." And she agreed with him.
She didn't agree with him. This conversation never happened. He may actually say that and believe that, but they never talked.
Well, how do you know? Were you around Mama Cornette following her around? What's the matter with you? You some kind of sex pest? But anyway, Dr. Abraham wouldn't have left his medical practice and founded Orgain just to create fruits and vegetables. And founded Orgain to create foods and beverages that offer better nutrition for people. If he didn't believe in it, he's not going to take a chance like that. But you know, he was homeless for a period of years. Before he was selling Orgain out of the trunk of the car. People were trying to snort it through the straw instead of drink it.
No, what are you talking about? None of this is true. Dr. Abraham has always had a home.
Well, it just depends on what you call a home. You've heard the phrase, "You've always got a home here with us," until you've been on a couch for a week and any ungrateful bastard will kick you out. But right now, folks, if you'd like to feel better, and drink a delicious chocolate shake, and know that it's good for you at the same time, instead of feeling bad like you're going to have to poop any minute.
Yeah, let's go.
Well, then Orgain's 30-gram protein shakes are available at Orgain.com. That's ORGAIN.com. If you want to get in on the delicious protein-packed nutrition today, Orgain.com/JCE and use the code JCE for 20% off of your order. So let's say you order, 25 cases. Well, you're going to get 20% off, and that's going to be a lot of money. So order 25 cases because the more you order, the more money you get off. And use the promo code JCE, or elsewise you'll have to pay for the whole thing retail price because they won't know that you know me. Orgain.com/JCE, promo code JCE.
All right. Now I'm hungry. Now I want one.
Well, it does manage hunger.
Well, it's not going to manage it for me right now. I'm here with you.
Well, I can give you a sip of mine.
No, thanks.
You can drink after me. It's okay.
I do not do that. No.
I've had my shots.
Your cooties, no.
Anyway, what are we supposed to be? You want to talk about some Smackdown, get that out of the way?
Yeah, some interesting developments this week on Smackdown.
Well, that's true. There were, and it's all about the bloodline. This was October 18th, right, from Columbia, South Carolina.
It was the best use of the bloodline because they didn't wrestle. It was just all of the theatrical segments that they actually excel in.
Well, and that was very well and concisely said on your part, because
Thank you.
That's the thing. I've realized at the end of the program, if this had been a 1 hour, primetime evening dramatic program, I would have watched it and loved it because that was just the bloodline stuff. And then they just had to put the other stuff in the middle with the wrestling and everything. But they were in Columbia, South Carolina. I thought, what would Henry Marcus think? My God. Henry Marcus would have been jumping up and down like a chicken on a hot tin roof.
Tell the people who that is.
Henry Marcus was that. Tell the people. Well, of course, the cult of Cornette already knows. Henry Marcus is a household name. Henry Marcus was the old promoter in Columbia, South Carolina, where it's still in the 80s when Crockett ran the Township Auditorium in Columbia. And Henry Marcus had been promoting wrestling since before there were territories, back when Charlotte was a booking office before television, and Jim Crockett Sr. booked the talent in that area, but Columbia was Henry Marcus's town. Like Sam Muchnick ran St. Louis, Paul Bosch, Houston, the days where a promoter really had one town and was able to, do wonders with that town. But Henry Marcus was probably 5.5 feet tall, and in 1986, he had to be. If he wasn't 80 years old, he looked 80. And he was kind of scrawny at that point, but we called him High Pockets Henry Marcus because he still wore suits like you'd see in the movies in the 30s, and the pants came up to his nipples. Right? It's like we used to joke that when he had to reach in his back pocket and pull his wallet out for any reason, he reached over the top of his shoulder. And he was just scrawny, and he talked like that. Yeah, boy, I haven't seen a crowd like this in here since we had Gorge, Georgia in 52. And just the classic, pro wrestling promoter from the old days. And I had to, I guess, do you think, is Henry Marcus on Wikipedia? Would Wikipedia go that deep? Are you blowing me off, or are you just?
I'm looking
your
right now.
Nose is in deep research.
It's a deep nose. No, there's no Wikipedia entry seemingly for Henry Marcus.
Henry Marcus.
That's correct.
Nothing.
You got that right.
Well, what about just a regular Google? There's a Mike Mooneyham's column.
Yeah,
You
didn't ask for the Mike Mooneyham column. You said Wikipedia.
Well, I'm just wondering.
I follow the rules.
Just how old would Henry Marcus be now if Henry Marcus was living now?
Do I need my translator pen? Hold on. He died in 2004. He died at the age of 93.
Wow. So 2004, he was born in 1911, right? So he was okay in 1986. He was 75 years old. But anyway, one of those classic characters. But, the building now in Columbia, South Carolina, they had a bigger building that we ran a few times in the TBS years and still didn't have a crowd like this in Columbia. Columbia must have grown substantially over the last 20 or 30 years. What would Henry Marcus have thought? He'd still be out in front of the box office going, "Go on now, you got your tickets, keep your stubs. Anyway, so the bloodline is what we were talking about, right?
I don't think we had started talking about them.
Well, you were wanting to when I wanted to talk about Henry Marcus.
Oh, that's right. I very concisely said that there are segments where they talk to each other and exhibit drama, sometimes better than the actual matches.
They can exhibit drama. So actually, we'll go through and just give it to you all in a row. Because the first thing that you saw, the cold open, was last week where things were breaking down, and Jimmy Uso came back, but he and Roman still got left laying, and Jimmy was like to Roman's like, we need help. But then they established a little thing in the back that Jay still won't talk to Jimmy. He's like, no yeet. But the first live thing on the program is Solo and the Tongas and Jacob coming to the ring to do a promo. And again, all they need to do is see these guys, and the people are chanting OTC, OTC. They're with this thing, and they take their time getting in the ring, all the pomp and the pageantry, and then Solo does the acknowledge me, and they fucking boo big. And they chant Solo sucks, Solo sucks. It's like it's a studio audience. So anyway, Solo put himself over, and his promos are getting better. Have you noticed? I think he's getting a little more comfortable with it.
A little bit, maybe.
And he put himself over, and the story, he's created a bigger, stronger bloodline, and Roman Reigns can't do nothing about it. or Jimmy. Look at what we did to him. And Jay doesn't want nothing to do with it either. And the people start chanting, yeet, yeet, yeet. And he says these beatings are going to continue. We're going to still keep beating on Roman Reigns unless he comes out here and he acknowledges me. And then all of a sudden, Jay's music plays. And here he comes down his normal entrance from up top down through the people, and the big reaction, and they're waving and they're yeeting and they're spitting about. And he confronts them all by himself in the ring to Solo. What's up, little brother? But have you noticed, I've realized now, part of the problem with Jey Uso's promos is that by the time he gets to the ring from doing all that horse shit, he's so blowed up, he's trying not to breathe hard. And by trying not to breathe hard, I think he's blowing himself up worse. Could you tell that?
I could tell that here. This specific promo, when he first started, he was out of breath completely.
Yeah, and he's trying not to show that he is. And that's sometimes why he can only say a few words. So yeet gets him a breath or two. But the
man's a genius.
Well, but at the same time, I wish maybe he'd take 30 seconds, just do some fucking hyperventilating in the corner and then come out normal. But his story was that he still cares about Solo. He's his brother. But he wants to talk to him because think about what you're doing to the family. I left to become my own man. I became the Intercontinental Champion. And now all the people are chanting, you deserve it. He can't even get his pitch out. They're chanting at him again. And this is no good. Fighting over the Ulafala is no good. It's earned. It's not taken. In the family and sis and mom, whatever, right? And Solo busted in on him and kind of kicked it in. That's why I'm there on the promo. He was making fun of Jay, kind of being sarcastic and not just that stone face that, we were seeing at one point in time, right? But anyway, he's telling Jay that I'm the tribal chief and you're always got a place in my establishment here, whatever, but you have to acknowledge me. Are you in or out? And again, they're chanting OTC, OTC. And then Jimmy said, why'd you have to go get these three? Look at them. There's a reason that we stayed away from them. And again, this story where these guys were the ones that were too bad for the original bloodline. What now? Go ahead.
Well, that line, there's a reason. Was that specifically about Jacob or was it about all of them?
I think it's all of them.
I thought that was just about cousin Jacob.
Well, I think it's all of them because now that they're trying to, because let's face it, the Tongas are a little dry, right? Dry as the beach on Tonga. So maybe they're trying to bring them in as far as being, because they're just, and truthfully, they're the tag team champions, but they're also flunkies whenever one of the top singles guys wants to beat everybody up. Because they can't beat up Jacob and they can't beat up Solo. So, but nevertheless, I think he's either that or maybe Jimmy just fucked it up. I don't know. But, there's a reason we stayed away from him, makes him dangerous. But that's when he looked at Jacob and said, if you keep looking at me like that, I'm going to knock your ass out. And that got a huge pop. And I wrote then, I'm loving this because this is great. They're doing a good job and it's got something going on. They're keeping it fresh. And Solo, of course, keeps Fatu back. Or not Jimmy, rather, if I said Jimmy earlier, but Jay said, next time I see you, it's going to be different. Yeet. And then Jay leaves while Solo has his hands out where he's not holding them back like they're trying to pull loose from him, but he's in control of them. So now Jay has an issue with these people, but he still don't trust his brother and what is Roman, the cousin or the cuz, or whatever the fuck is going on.
Well, based on what happens in this show, it doesn't seem like the issue is really with his brother as much as with Roman specifically. And you can understand that if you remember anything about the actual bloodline history.
Well, don't sound like condescending Uncle Dave to me. I'm willing to learn.
Jim!
You know that if you remember. Yes, I'm just saying that there's still a level of mistrust amongst the original bloodline members because of the way that everything went down.
Do they need to give Jacob Fatu something every few weeks where he just has a display, even if it's like a handicap match, just something? If he's going to be standing there a lot, not doing anything because he's the bodyguard and it's just about his face, should they give him, little displays just to reinforce what he could do?
Yes, and I think they have been giving him some little displays in terms of, when he gets the spot in the finish where he no-sells something, or he's the one that wipes somebody out, or he's the one that turns the tide. But I agree with you that even once a month, put him against two whoever the fucks, and not even job guys, but just two fucking guys. They obviously don't mind beating people around here. And just let him do a handicap match and do his shit. Stay away from the little fucking headbutt. But that was a 17-minute segment right there, and that was great stuff. And it didn't get old because it kept moving, and there was some twists and turns.
And it was the best thing with Jey Uso in a long time.
Yeah.
Because it really went with his strengths, which is doing these kind of segments with the bloodline, with his family. That is what got him over. And the Yeet thing has been the thing happening on Raw, but this is the Jey Uso I like.
Well, and then continuing on with and then we'll come back and pick up some other things that happened, but it's to keep on with the bloodline so that we don't lose track of the players in the game. Here later on, an SUV pulled in the back, and there gets out Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso. And why can't anybody get to the show on time? And have you noticed that usually in AEW, it's 8:30 in the middle of a 2-hour show, and they're leaving the building. But here, it's 8:30 for an 8 o'clock live show, and they're just getting there.
Well, things are a lot more lax now that Vince is out of the way. But he did say he watched it because he referenced the Jey Uso promo. He must have watched it in the car.
Or maybe they got one of these fancy Dan phones that plays TV now. I've heard of those. I think they hand those out when you become a secret agent. But anyway, they get out of the SUV. They're walking in. Well, they were talking about playing a rap song too that they were listening to in the car. I hate that I missed that. When suddenly they see Jay, and Jay tries to walk away from him, but Roman Reigns stops him. And Roman says to him, he looks and he says to him seriously, "I'm proud of you. We all are." And Jay looks back and says, "No yeet," and walked away. And then Roman's like to Jimmy, "I told you so. I told you so." The yeet was silly in that situation, in that spot, whether it's over or not. I don't care if Jay had just said, if he hadn't said anything, if he just turned around and walked away from him, it would have made the point that Roman had tried to extend the olive branch and Jay had turned it down. But no yeet sounds frivolous for that particular context, doesn't it?
I mean, it didn't bother me terribly because it goes in line with everything he's done for the last few months, but I could see your point, and it probably would have been stronger if he had broken that for a second there.
Just the once. Just the once.
With that said, he's right. Why should he forgive Roman? Sure, I told you he'd be like, I told you what? He'd remember what a dick you were? Ordering him around, talking down to him in front of the crowds, making him turn on his friend Sammy. So I don't know. I'm on Jey Uso's side here.
Well, this is still to be resolved because later on, in the back, Jimmy was still telling Roman that he should talk to Jay, and Roman was like, "I tried to talk to Jay. We already talked to Jay." And at first, Jimmy had been, when Roman was deep in thought, Jimmy had been over his shoulder, and the camera widened out, and Roman looks up and he's kind of startled, like, why are you so close to me? He was sitting next to him, looking over his shoulder like Heyman used to. And Jimmy was saying, the wise man's not here, so I was trying to be like the wise man. And Roman says, if the wise man was here, this would have been done by now. So would it be good if somebody said what the fuck actually was the matter with Heyman? The extent of, he got power bombed and on the desk and suffered a cervical blah, 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 and he can't move his jaw, or.
Because they seemed pretty jolly talking about him. It wasn't like the wise man, rest in peace.
Yeah, no, he's not.
Bless
he's
his
not
soul.
Dead. He's not dead. You just know he's coming back, but they haven't said exactly what was the matter with him or how long it would be, or not even how long it would be, but one would think they would say, poor wise man, what he did to him. He's still bedridden or whatever. Anyway.
Hey, listen, the first time, as a surprise, the fans hear, ladies and gentlemen, from Heyman, it's going to get the biggest pop a manager has gotten in WWE since Paul Bearer returned.
Oh, yeah.
At WrestleMania, what was it, WrestleMania 20? When all of a sudden you heard, oh, yeah, and the place came unglued. Because it meant that The Undertaker wasn't a badass anymore. He was dead once again.
Do you think that that's the way that they babyface Brock Lesnar back into this thing somehow, by that the babyface bloodline is still one man short, and there's no way they're going to triumph and right at the last minute in time for people to order the pay-per-view or whatever the fuck you heard, ladies and gentlemen, and out comes Heyman and Brock to be the evening up force?
It's interesting, and there's still a lot of stuff they left up in the air with Brock and Cody, and you got to figure at some point you got to get Cody pulled back into this before WrestleMania. We'll see. I mean, Heyman has to be, the fact that they're mentioning Heyman means it has to be close, you would think.
Well, I don't know. They still didn't mention his name. They just referred to him. But nevertheless, they were sitting there, and finally Roman says, I'm going to fix this my way. And Jimmy says, how? And Roman says, I'm going to acknowledge Solo. And now again, this is great, right? Oh my God. Dun, 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 dun. So then we have some more program. And then finally, last thing, Roman Reigns' entrance gets the big reaction. OTC. Columbia, South Carolina, big pop on that. Maybe for the last time, acknowledge me. Big pop there. And then Solo's music plays, and out he comes, and he's alone. And he's wearing the Ulafala, so they have the summit meeting of the original and the would that be classic and new tribal chief, like classic Coke and new Coke? Or I guess Coke's not involved anymore since the 90s. But Roman says, hey, you told Jay that our family and bloodline is stronger now. Well, I don't see it. I think we're divided and we're broken. And Roman, he's taking the acting lessons or whatever he's doing, because he's ready for Hollywood. And the facial expressions when he's thinking about things and milking things and just twitching. And I told my father I could fix this. All I want to do is put us back on top. So what do I have to do to fix this? And Solo said, it's easy. Acknowledge me. And the people are chanting OTC again, and Roman milks it. And again, they got the close-up, and the wheels are turning, and his jaw is clenching, and his cheeks are twitching. And finally he says, I acknowledge you. There, does that make you feel better? No, that's not good enough. Acknowledge me as your tribal chief. And now Roman more twitching. He's really twitching. And the crowd is like, no. And Solo says, acknowledge me or else. And Roman finally bows up and screams, or else what? And then Solo starts laughing at him because he knew he could make him break. You never change. I knew it, and I'm not going to change either. And here come the Tongas and Jacob Fatu out the entranceway, dragging Jimmy Uso where they beat him up in the back. And Roman and Solo get in a fight. Boom, boom, boom. And Roman dumps Solo. And then he nails the Tongas and he levels Jacob. And Superman punches Solo. And he's laid waste to everybody. And he sees the Ula Fala there. And he picks it up and he puts it on. And the pop is huge. But right as he's putting it on, probably a little bit early, as squash the pop, Solo nut shots him. And the heels get some heat on him. And Jacob does the DDT, and then Solo hit the spike twice on Roman. And so Jacob could present and readorn Solo with the Ula Fala while the people are chanting, Solo sucks, Solo sucks. Either that or Solo fucks, so I couldn't tell for sure. But, I mean, what? This is fucking great. This is great shit again. Remember we were saying this 2 years ago. This is great shit. How long can they keep this up? What'd you think?
I enjoyed everything with the Bloodline this week on the show. Everything in between is another story. But all the Bloodline stuff was great, and they're building things up to the point where when the show went off the air, I actually was, at that moment, like, I want more. I want to know where this is going. It's kind of what you want from your wrestling show. I can't wait for next week's episode to at least see the non-wrestling segments.
Yeah, if they could just get that pesky wrestling out of the way. We did miss talking about the Street Profits with B-Fab versus Ciampa and Same Face versus Purely Dreary in a three-way time filler where the winner of this would wrestle the winner of another one for a title match at a later date. So that was that. Tiffany got the flu. So Aldous forced the refrigerator to get another partner, and in walked Candy LaRue, the most diminutive little larvae on the roster, and so she became the partner. I wrote, maybe she'll squish her. And we saw Piper Niven versus Lash Legend. And then at 9 o'clock was Cody Rhodes. And again, boom, out he comes, the big response, the whoa. He literally kissed a baby on the way to the ring. Did you see that? They found a baby somewhere, and he's there making over the baby.
Before you go any further, I'm just going to say this right here at the top. A few more weeks of this, he's dangerously close to becoming Bob Backlund in terms of just squareness.
Yeah.
And in these promos, it's like a kind Moxley at times. Like, what is he even saying?
Well,
why would anyone want to be behind him other than the fact that they already are? He needs to be like directed in a certain, I don't know. He needs to be, Cody, just talk about this person and what you're going to do, not platitudes, not comments for all the people everywhere. Just don't do that anymore. While you're dressed like you're running a Nickelodeon in 1855 or what the fuck? Like, I don't, they weren't back then, but you get the picture.
He was the heel in the Around the World in 80 Days cartoon. But no, they're chanting Cody and they love it. But yes, and he points out the big crowd and it brings them into it, and that's great. And he cut a promo on being the first Crown Jewel champion, and they're pushing that ugly ass belt. But he's like, what if Harley Race had faced Bruno Sammartino? What if Nick Bockwinkel had faced Ric Flair? Goldberg versus Austin. At Crown Jewel, there will be a definitive Crown Jewel champion. And he started talking about Gunther. And that's where I think this is it. He's not being too much of a baby face. He's being too much of he's crossing the line into a little prissiness. He's doing the Dusty Cadence, but he's not doing the Dusty having a build like one of the
Yeah.
boys type of thing, you know.
Because
with the-
Dusty wouldn't have worked as well if you thought the Dusty character's life goal was to go to Harvard.
Yes, there you go. Dusty's character's life goal was to beat up everybody that graduated from Harvard. But, you know, Cody needs his daughter to know that he's the champion. And he invited Gunther to SmackDown next Friday night so that he can ask him, hey, champ, what do you want to talk about? He's kind of smiling and smirky and I don't know, like you said, he can be a very good babyface, but there was nobody here to juxtapose with, to counterpoint him, to bully him so he could be the sympathetic figure. And it was a little verbose and a little snooty. I started to say uppity or snooty, and it became snoopity.
The problem is Cody practices talking in a way that doesn't sound natural. And then once you do that and you start putting words that if people used in everyday conversation, it would sound more natural. And it creates the problem.
But because they don't.
Yeah. And I think that's, it's a little bit of the Moxley disease sometimes with Cody. He wants to say things that in his head sound good. Maybe when he's letting people check out his promo in advance, maybe they say it's good.
Workshopping.
But it doesn't come across well. It doesn't work. And it makes him seem pretentious. And that's not what you want the top babyface being. If they had the thing that would kill Cody is if they had a cool babyface that people suddenly got behind. Like, that's where I compare him to Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund worked big time. And then once Snuka got there, it was over. He had another year and a half or so as champion. Didn't matter. Everything had changed. You had seen someone cooler. There's no one like that right now, so Cody's safe. But if he keeps just doing this, I think you're going to have a problem.
You know what? He seems like he represents the state to me. He's a statist.
A state? What state?
The state of confusion anymore. I don't know. No, but, he's probably on the side of the big bankers.
He's dressed like he owns like a nice building in the Wild West. Like, what the fuck is the whole... What is the look? What is it? What is the look?
P.T. Barnum if he was a good-looking, tall, blonde man. But no, that's the fashion at the Copacabana, the hottest spot north of Havana. So that's what happened there. But there's a follow-up now because, there's another part of this, another country needing to be heard from. Kevin Owens has an issue with Cody. We're aware of this. There was the parking lot attack after the pay-per-view, and then last week he being Owens, beat up Randy Orton in the parking lot for trying to go talk to Owens about being nicer to Cody. And so they showed some of that, and then they had video from Owens in his car, shot with his phone, I assume. But, Brian, maybe because you're a young person who stays up with the hip cats and everything.
I'm 44.
Well, but you're hipper than I am.
Well, yeah.
And you're a bit of a hippie.
What?
Why, when all the celebrities are phoning in some program on the video, why are they always sitting in their fucking car? Why can't, if they're using their phone, doesn't their phone work in their fucking house?
Well, I guess if you're going to do take after take, if you're sitting in your car, you don't have to worry about people. Sir, we're ready for you. I don't know where they would be. I don't know where the scenario is.
What are you talking about?
I don't know, God damn it. But yeah, why is he in his car?
It's not just this instance. You see this all the time. Somebody has some comment to make on the internet. They're doing it from their car. Somebody has a call-in spot on a news program. The phone in the car. Why is everybody in the car when they suddenly have these epiphanies of how to do this commentary? They can't be in the house. They can't be sitting in a fucking chair. I don't understand. Is there something about the young people speaking from their car? Is that like the cone of silence or some kind of confessional where you can speak? You can only speak the truth if you're in the car.
Is he at home?
Then what's he doing sitting out in his driveway?
Maybe he's at home. He doesn't want to be around his family.
Well, the promo is they told me to stay home and not come to SmackDown. But he's sitting in his car, so he didn't stay home. He went somewhere, or he's about to go somewhere.
That's great. Maybe he told his wife that nothing happened. Everything's fine. I'm going to work. I can't tell her I got told to stay home from SmackDown. And he's just hanging out in his car for the night.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he wants that old deal to work, or anybody that, hey, honey, I'm going to work tonight. I'll be back late. Remember to stop at the gas station bathroom on the way back and wet your tights and shit. Put them back in your bag so elsewise you can get found out. But anyway, Owen says it's ridiculous. It's unfair. I've been told to stay home. Look at what we've seen guys do to each other again. And I'm the one that gets told to stay home. So all the chaos and the mayhem and the attacks and people hitting each other with fucking sledgehammers. He's exactly correct. He's raised the point we've raised. How can this be allowed to go on? But he gets told to stay home because he dropped their golden boy. And he's very low key when he's saying all this, uncharacteristic of loudmouth Steen. He feels unappreciated by WWE. He can't believe that Randy Orton betrayed him. He can't believe that Randy picked Cody over him. And he was saying, the way I feel about this, I don't know when or if I can come back. So right then I wrote, it sounds like he's re-signed already. Do you think we've been talking about, is he going to go play with his friends for millions of dollars from the, wrestling version of Richie Rich, or is he going to stay here? And he's kind of dropped down the totem pole here, but do you think they've made him a massive offer of millions of dollars and he's re-signed? Because why else would they be doing something where he's not even coming back for the near future? That looks like a red herring to make a mark think that's the way they're writing him out.
We'll see. I mean, again, if it's going to expire early next year, you got a few months to get some value out of him. But the other thing is, if he re-signs, we know what it'll be, but it's hard to say no to the amount of money Tony's willing to throw at Kevin Owens.
Well, and they had Orton in the back after this.
Because make no mistake, he's willing to throw a ton of money at Kevin Owens.
Oh, yeah, because of, he's a friend of the friends. But they had Orton in the back with Aldis. This is another clue of it may take longer or be drawn out more. Orton wants Aldis to make the match with him and Owens, but Aldis can't do it. And Orton starts arguing with him. He says, you're not listening to what I'm saying. I can't do it. This is coming from the top. And that's when Randy says, well, then I know who I need to talk to. And I'm assuming it's not Moxley. So it's probably he's going to have to talk to Triple H, is he not? And would that not be another development that might prolong this thing a little bit? It's obviously not going to happen in Saudi Arabia, but I would think Survivor Series, right?
Let's see where they go with this. It's Triple H, or I guess it technically could be The Rock or Nick Khan, but Triple H is the only one that would make sense storyline-wise. We'll see where this goes. That's an interesting little wrinkle there, that they can't make the match because they're not allowed to.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. I don't think they're going to go to Nick Khan because they haven't established him as a person that anybody goes to on camera for anything or whatever. And I don't believe they'd use The Rock on this, so I think it has to be Triple H. But we shall see whether or not we get this and when it is. And then we had another triple threat match, Waller and Theory and the Lucha Heels, and the debuting Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. And I like those kids. I worked with them at TNA 15 years ago. I hesitate to say anything good about anybody, again, because you never know what people been up to. But nice, dedicated young men. They look great physically. They're in shape. I look forward to watching them in an actual real match where I could tell something about whether anybody can do anything or not. But they won this one, so apparently they're not in there just to be chopped liver. But somebody did mention when Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin just made their WWE debuts at the ages of, I think they said 41 and 42 or 41 and 43. And when Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express, made their WWF debuts in 1993, they were 35 and 37. Oh, anyway.
That's crazy for me to believe that Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton were younger then than I am now.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes, they were. Because, and again, you know, guys start late these days. They're in their early mid-20s by the time they even start in a business, so you don't think that they're as old, and then time passes more slowly when nobody's having any fun. But
WWE bringing in an established tag team that has never done anything in WWE but has been around for over 10 years. What does that tell you about what they're thinking about their tag team division?
I think in this case, they also potentially may see something in Shelley and Sabin as far as maybe transitioning them to, well, that's a bad connotation these days, but with an eye toward them becoming agents, because they're of that age now that they can do all this stuff in the ring, but also they can communicate with hopefully with the younger generation, and they can also understand where the what's the word I'm searching for? The old folks are coming from, the
old age home, retirement home,
the
nut house.
No, would you stop it? I'm talking about The Office, but I mean that's
what I meant.
The previous generation, the man, the establishment. That's the word I was searching for. The fuzz, the establishment. They can talk to the executives, but they could also talk to the young people. So maybe they can be a conduit. That's probably what they're looking at also, I would think, or hope.
Alex Shelley's one of those guys, and again, I know they're not big guys, but Alex Shelley always had an interesting look and an interesting charisma. I was always amazed or surprised, I guess, that he never did more. Because it seemed like for a while TNA was trying to do stuff with him before they were a tag team. Like, I remember him doing stuff with, like, Nash. Like, they were using him with top guys, and I don't know, there was something about him that was unique, and it never really went too far, it seemed like.
Well, hold on here. There was the problem. They were doing something with Nash. Nash had a deal that either he was hurt and couldn't work, or had convinced them that it would be better if he didn't work and did this. I don't know. But he was working with the cruiserweight X division, whatever the fuck, the young guys. The same 6 guys that they would beat in revolving fashion every week that were the X division. But Nash was supposedly giving them advice and trying to mentor them and work with them or whatever. What it was a way for him to talk and get on TV without taking any bumps or doing anything. And it just, Shelley was the most entertaining guy in that group. I think that's why you might remember him with Nash, but there were others in there as well, and it never did anything for them, and they never went anywhere after that. Because Shitstain didn't give 2 hoots about whether they did anything with those guys or not. And Jeff had just put them in a position, honestly, where they were just supposed to have the video game match, and a different guy would win every week. So it was just blah. But the Guns as a team, they did stuff with the Dudleys, and they were quite accomplished at one point in the tag team ranks there, but that was 2008, I guess. So it's been a while. But good Lord, they're better than some of the people we're looking at these days. And then Bailey and Naomi wrestled the Refrigerator and Candy LaRue, and Candy LaRue actually got the win for their team. Boy, what a contest that was. Did you have any thoughts on that contest?
No, I skipped it.
Oh, so, yeah, basically, that was the Bloodline with several, long commercial breaks for wrestling matches.
Well, that was Smackdown.
Yes, it was. And I'll tell you what, honestly, I'm betting the next week is the same thing. Is there will they let you bet on sure things if you know that such and such can't miss? There's no way it's not going to happen. Put the money on it, bet the farm, as they say. Don't buy the farm, bet the farm. If it's just something, a foregone conclusion like that, I bet you our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook would still let you bet on something like that, wouldn't they, Brian?
They would let you do something, certainly, and it may even be aligned with some of the things you say, yes.
Well, that's a definitive declarative statement, and I'm glad that you've made it crystal clear. But, folks, I'll tell you what, if there's any ambiguity left on your part about what you can do, then download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today. They're an official sports betting partner of the NBA and this National Basketball Association. Or is it Alliance? National Basketball Alliance?
It's an association. There is no alliance.
Oh, so there's no honor among thieves. They associate, but they don't ally with each other. Well, nevertheless, they're an official partner of DraftKings and Sportsbook and all that type of thing. And that means, boy, howdy, it's official. When you bet on the NBA, you can get right in there and you can bet on who's going to make the most three-point shots or who's going to get the most rebounds or who's draining threes and who's crashing the boards. Have you seen? They've got footage of this where the basketball players just go up for the big dunk and they miss the hoop entirely and just smack their faces right into the backboard. Knocks them right to the ground. Corrective plastic surgery is necessary. It's an amazing thing. They're thinking about having a contest at halftime. Not for dunking, but face smashing. You can bet.
I have not heard of this, no.
You can bet who gets their face smashed next in the NBA at DraftKings Sportsbook. And you can tell the people that are more prone to it because they have the flatter faces.
That may not be an actual thing, but there's lots of other things you can wager on with DraftKings.
Yes, there's things, actual and otherwise, that you can wager on at DraftKings. That's why when you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and then it's the home of the NBA, and if you're a new customer, if you bet just $5, then you're going to get $200 in bonus bets pretty much instantly. Could you hear my finger snap just then? Can you hear that, Brian?
I hear that, yeah.
See, that's because we got the noise filtration fixed. But boom, and I hear yours. Okay, Jose Greco.
How about that? Hey, come on now.
The point is, you bet $5, you get $200 in bonus bets. Then you bet on everything and everybody. Just go crazy. Just bet on the moon and the sun and the stars with all this extra money you're going to get. And you're bound to win something. Every point counts with DraftKings Sportsbook, and you can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use the code JCE. And that's going to get you $200 in the bonus bets when you bet just $5 only at DraftKings, because the crown is yours. And the crown is yours for $5, apparently. So that's a hell of a fucking bargain.
What's that, Frank? Oh, someone's here. He has something to say. Let's go to this guy right now. As soon as his app opens, let's go to this guy right now. Right now. Here he is. Right here.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
You know, he ought to update his content there, because the NFL was before and now it's the NBA. So we got to get back to Mr. Tits McGee there about updating his spiel. But it's basically, the gist is the same thing, folks. If you got a problem, Don't call us, call them.
The crown is yours, I guess is what we're trying to say with DraftKings.
Yes. That's what we're trying to say.
Jim, we have some breaking news as we're recording.
Jeez. Oh, boy.
I'm going to read you a tweet that was sent out by Samantha Irvin.
Oh, the ring announcing young lady on the...
or ring announcer, as we call them.
On the WWE.
The ring announcing young lady, or as we call them, ring announcers. WWE Universe, my time has come to an end as your Monday Night Raw ring announcer.
Oh, no!
I love you all tremendously, and this does not mark the end of my art. I have a lifetime more to share. Thank you to every WWE fan who accepted me. To the women's locker room, you are the most incredible group of people on the face of this earth. I am beyond proud to be your colleague and friend. To the crew and cameramen, I can't thank you enough for the encouragement, the laughs. You created such a wonderful, positive atmosphere for me. Love you all. To the WWE superstars, past and present, I have thanked you since 1989 and will continue to thank you for the rest of my days for entertaining us.
This is starting to sound like either George M. Cohan's speech after his encore or the exit of MacArthur.
For raising the bar over and over again, for risking your bodies and finding new ways to keep us shocked and wanting more. There is no form of entertainment like this, and not just any entertainer can be a WWE superstar. The respect I have for you is more than I can express. Except here, this tweet. Thank you. Thank you for making it so easy to pour emotion and excitement into your introductions. I can't read. You are the stars that the stars idolize. It doesn't get any bigger, and I'm proud to have used my voice to let the world know it. Thank you, Paul Heyman, Michael P.S. Hayes, and Michael Cole. I will continue to apply what I learned from you.
She tweeted this? Wait, what?
To every aspect of my career. Thank you for invigorating my creativity. Thank you, Brian Road Dogg James, Scott Armstrong, Gabe Sapolsky, and George Carroll Jr. for giving me my first opportunities to rise to the occasion. Thank you, Triple H, for trusting me and showcasing me on this platform. Thank you, Mark Henry, for giving me my big break. I hope I made you proud. Thank you to all the coaches, producers, medical, writers, talent relations, makeup, photography, social media, digital, travel department, catering, merch, 2K team, referees, security, and announce team for everything you did to help me along the way. To my fans, my entire career, I've been waiting for you. We are meant to be, and I can prove it. Stay tuned. All my love, and still, Samantha.
Well, what?
P.S. I'd also like to thank the rental car guy, catering Susan.
What has happened? Why would they replace her? Is she leaving because, well, her husband's over on the other side now? But is that an issue, or are they making a change on purpose? And why would they do that? No, they haven't got another one that's good as she is, do they?
Based on this thank you that she sent out, that she must have taken time to think about and craft. This is her decision. She's decided to leave WWE and leave Raw. Obviously, a lot of people are assuming she'll go to AEW because her fiance is gone there. But that's, that's all.
How many girl announcers and interviewers they got over there?
They have nonstop interview. Basically, if you are married to someone or date someone and you're a wrestler, you can get them to be an announcer in AEW. Or a commentator, or an interviewer, whatever it may be. Now, look, she's the best ring announcer in a long time. They have a really bad one in Justin Roberts. That would be a big improvement, but it's not like they're going to fire Justin Roberts, so then we'll just have another ring announcer if she goes there. And again, she became a ring announcer. I believe she signed up originally to train to be a wrestler, and it didn't work out. And they made her a ring announcer. And the way she's saying this to my fans, my entire career I've been waiting for you. We are meant to be, and I can prove it. Stay tuned. Makes it sound like it could almost be something outside of this. Maybe she's going to release an album. Maybe who knows what. But a surprising move. Samantha Irvin leaving WWE.
Oh, well, there's not that many things that we like, so I hate when we lose one of the things that we do. But what in the world do you like?
Is that a good get for AEW? If you're AEW and you can get the ring announcer who was just on all their major shows, whose ring announcer, I mean, the way she did it became part of the story, the filming of her getting emotional and everything. Is that a good get for AEW?
Well, yes and no. They could also reanimate Frank Gotch and bring him back from the grave along with Lou Thez and get, major motion picture stars also, but it's not going to translate the same. Nobody gets over, they get under. They can't figure out how to successfully capitalize on strong points that, somebody, when they sign a star, they come in great, and within 6 weeks, they're one of the boys or one of the girls. Or whatever has worked other places has the shine and the steam taken off of it over there. So is it a great get? Well, she's done a great job as ring announcer. Is it going to matter? Probably not. Is the show going to get any better? Who knows? They've had bigger hires. It didn't get any better. It got worse. Well,
we will find out. But Samantha Irvin, again, like I said before, shocking, surprising to see this news today. She's become very popular over the last year especially. And I guess, my entire career I've been waiting for you, for the fans. Obviously, she's really noticed the reaction she's gotten, and now she's going to try to do something with it. So we will see what happens there.
Maybe she just wants to get out of the wrestling business entirely, and she wants to be a regular announcer. Maybe you could hire her over at the Arcadian Vanguard Network to host one of the programs.
Well, I mean, I'm more than willing to have a conversation. I'm not going to negotiate in public with you as her representative. That seems ridiculous.
I might just have her best interests at heart.
I don't think she understands what you're doing behind her back. No, I wouldn't. I will speak directly with the talent.
Well, if she bothered to look over her shoulder, she'd know what I'm doing behind her back. But maybe it's best she remains blissfully ignorant.
Again, I don't even know where you're going right here. But ladies and gentlemen, find out where we've been every day with the wrestling news. Get it directly from thewrestlingnews.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcast. No opinion, no conjecture, just news, just the wrestling news. No paywall, no clickbait, just the wrestling news. Wherever you find your favorite podcast. Want to make mention of Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam. Again, a great look back at 40 years ago, 1984. So many things happening in the WWE and around the overall wrestling world. Hear about them, McAdamPod.com, or Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, the 605 Superpodcast, the Mothership!
Wait.
The hell was that? Okay. You stumbled for once.
I dropped my gimmick.
Go through the archive today, 605pod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
All righty. Well, before we go, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a couple of minutes left before our expiration of time, and we are going to do a segment here that we often do on Brian's program, The Drive-Thru, called Guess the Program. And the premise is that Brian will take a program from his collection and read me the lineup, and I am supposed to determine where it took place and what year it took place. And that is the premise of the piece, and then hilarity and wrestling history follow. Right, Brian?
Something like that, yes. I believe so.
Well, have you got the programs?
I've got a bunch of programs I'm trying to figure out in order here.
If you got the programs, I got the information.
Well, we shall see about that. Let me start with one that's a little more current. Let me open this. It actually has the ticket stubs in here with it, and there's no way to open it. What the fuck is this? Hold on. Who sealed this? What? There we go. There we go. Not everyone should seal everything.
It usually works much more smoothly, this bit.
It usually does on my show, but again, this is not my show. It's a more professional production with all the same people.
Than your show.
Yes. Here we go. Here is the lineup. I will start with the first event. Kelly Kaniski versus Buck Rock and Roll Zumhoff.
Okay.
The second event, Crippler Rip Oliver from New York versus Iceman King Parsons.
Uh-huh.
The third event, for an unnamed title, the champions, the Fantastics, Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton, City of Angels versus challengers, Midnight Express, Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey of New York.
Yeah, they were New York crazy down there in that program office.
The fourth event, a lumberjack-style match, Kevin Von Erich versus Chris Adams. An intermission, the fifth event, all 6 men in the ring, elimination match, losers leave town. The Freebirds of Terry Gordy, Buddy Roberts, and Chick Donovan versus General Skandar Akbar, The Missing Link, and Mr. X. Somehow I don't remember that match at all.
Yeah.
The main event.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For a championship I will not name. The champion, Ric Flair of Minnesota, versus the challenger, Kerry Von Erich, Denton County. Then it's an intermission. The seventh event, Jose Lothario versus El Diablo. And finally, the eighth event, Sunshine in the Corner, Mike Von Erich and Billy Jack from the Northwest versus, with Nicola in the corner, Gino Hernandez and Jake the Snake Roberts.
I am thinking that was the card on New Year's Eve 1984 in Fort Worth, Texas, where Flair and Kerry had that horrible match where they had to find Kerry out in his car in the cattle chute. But now wait, they did an hour Broadway, and that's a lot of matches to do an hour. And you know what? I don't remember the Fantastics and the Midnight being working against each other on the underneath of that card. Could that have been the same week, potentially in San Antonio with the Joe and Harry Freeman Coliseum, but it was instead of New Year's Eve, it was the first week of January 1985. That is the time period, the last week of December or the month of January 1985. And I don't think it's the Sportatorium in Dallas, because I don't remember Flair being there at that point. So I've got to go with either San Antonio or Fort Worth on New Year's Eve.
The building, Reunion Arena,
Son
Dallas,
of a
Texas.
bitch.
Christmas
Was that
Star
Christmas
Wars.
night? That was
Christmas Wrestling
night.
Star Wars.
God damn it.
You went right past Christmas to New Year's.
Well, because I didn't remember that being Flair and Kerry being, and that was the main event. It's not like they put the tag match on last or whatever, but I didn't remember Flair and Kerry doing Christmas night and then rematching in Fort Worth that quickly on New Year's Eve. That's what threw me off.
All right, so we're starting well here.
So I was a week away, and I was only 35 miles away, but I was in the wrong building.
All right.
And by the way, also, I'd like to register that I had 102-degree fever that night. I really did. That's what they said about Kerry within the match in Fort Worth. But I'd gotten sick and been sick for a week here at home and had to fly down to Dallas and do that show at Reunion Arena with a fever and a horrible fucking cold or whatever, and throwing the temper tantrum after we lost our first major show in the territory, which was a sign of things to come. I almost passed out. I goddamn nearly had a stroke. And then I came home and laid in bed for the next week until the day before New Year's. I had to drive to Dallas, and I stopped on the side of the road and threw up twice. So I don't remember what the fuck was going on.
That must have been tough for Flair, because he had so many matches with Kerry and so many classics with Kerry. If you watch some of the Mid-South house show footage from '84,
oh yeah,
just great stuff. But he never knew what he was going to get. There was no consistency. It wasn't like, I have nothing to worry about tonight. Every night, Flair had to worry if Kerry was going to be in a condition to do anything. At least at that point. In 84, 85, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it was a crapshoot. But anyway, all right, I'm warmed up now.
All right, we got our next card here, Jim. The opening event, Billy Rayburn versus Monty LeDoux.
Oh, okay.
The second event, one fall to a finish, Danny Savage versus Texas Tornado Jack Curtis. The third event, the third and fourth event are both best 2 out of 3 falls. The official referee for both main events, the greatest of them all, Ed Strangler Lewis, assisted by Jack Gott. I won't say what town that is. The 2 main events, Jesse James versus Angelo Savoldi, and Al Alexander versus Al Galento.
Ooh, Al Spider Galento, who had a hand in was a big heel in the Memphis territory before it became even before it was owned by Gulas and Welch, and had a hand in training Tommy Gilbert. So Monty LeDoux was a guy that spent a lot of time in the Amarillo, West Texas area in the late 40s, early 50s. I think when Dean Denton was still the promoter out there, right before Dory Funk Sr. Jack Curtis, obviously, that would have been, very early on in his career. He would probably been in his rookie years. Jack Curtis, the son of George Culkin, who was the Mississippi promoter for so long. Strangler Lewis, everybody knows. Jesse James was a journeyman from the 50s through the 70s. Which Savoldi was this? Angelo?
This was Angelo Savoldi, and let me just also say double main events are finish matches tonight.
Yes, and that means there's no time limit. It's one fall to a finish.
Well, no, there were 2 out of 3 falls, but it also says they are finish
okay,
matches.
then no time limit then. It doesn't matter how long it takes, they go to the finish. I've got to think this is West Texas. And I've got to think this is the very early 50s, probably. Amarillo, 1952. I'm not going to narrow it down any more than that.
The Stockyard City Coliseum, Oklahoma City. Wednesday, November 2nd, 1949.
All right, so I was 3 years off and about 500 miles.
The greatest of them all, Ed, and there's a picture of Ed Strangler Lewis, it just says Ed here. Ed will be with us tonight to referee the main event. Mr. Lewis is devoting his time and money to benefit boys' work, clubs, etc. Tonight, as his guests at the ringside, that is what
at the ringside,
will be the kids from the Taylor Boys Home, Police Department Boys Club, and the YMCA Crippled Children. So there you go. Ed Strangler Lewis, 1949. It's not like he's following Fez around here.
Well, he hadn't got that spot yet. That's why I was thinking it was probably the early 50s at least, because that's when they started using him to go with Thesz.
All right, let me give you an easy one.
Oh, now you're condescending now.
Well, easy for you. Easy for you, not easy for the layman.
Well, that's easy for you to say.
I'm opening this one. I have not reboarded this one yet, which I need to do. So this will be the only time I do this. Here is the card. A challengers match. Sam Platania versus Charlie Carr.
Oh my God.
Adrian Belargeron.
Every
time I get it wrong. Versus Tex Riley. A special event. A ladies match. 1 fall, 1 hour time limit. Nell Stewart versus Millie Stafford. For the World Junior Heavyweight Championship, Angelo Savaldi versus Lee Fields. 2 out of 3 falls, 60-minute time limit. There'll be an intermission, at which point lucky numbers will be announced. And the main event, or one of the double main event, because you had a World Junior Heavyweight Championship match. A grudge match, 2 out of 3 falls, no time limit. Billy Wicks versus Sputnik Monroe.
Okay, well, we're in Memphis. And Sam Platania would later on go on to be a longtime referee for Gulas Welch. But at the time, this would be either mid to late 1959 or early 1960. I think he actually wrestled amateur, and they had, picked him up along the way. Charlie Carr was a longtime Tennessee babyface and was thought well of. Belargeon was one of the Belargeon brothers. I think were there 5, but they were bodybuilders and did strongman feats, and they were French Canadian.
And a cousin Lance.
Yes, and cousin Lance Belargeon. Tex Riley was one of the all-time biggest baby faces in Tennessee wrestling, whether it be Nashville, Knoxville, or Memphis. The girls were obviously well thought of at the time. Those were names. Savoldi was the junior heavyweight title. Lee Fields is a member of the Fields family, the Fields and the Hatfields, that were the cousins of the Fullers and Welches that ran the Gulf Coast down in Mobile, Alabama, and that territory. And obviously, Billy Wicks and Sputnik Monroe was the biggest drawing program in the history of Memphis wrestling for that period of time. And that's why I say this has to be one of the Memphis cards where they wrestled, probably before the Gilmore Field match. So unless this was a reprise afterwards the next year, I don't have the Memphis record book in front of me. I'm going to say fall 1959.
Memphis, Tennessee, April 6th, 1959.
All right. Well, fall comes early down south.
Billy Wicks versus Sputnik Monroe, the match of the year, demanded by you, fans, who have watched and listened to these two men battle each other with words on the Saturday TV program over Channel 5. Promoter Buddy Fuller worked out contracts with both men this week for the match that has all the indications of being the best ever seen here. Both have called each other yellow over television and actually have been anxious for the match. Wicks is a 210-pounder from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Monroe, a 212-pounder from Wichita, Kansas, the best 2 out of 3 falls with a 90-minute time limit. So this is the start of everything with these two.
Yeah, that's the start of the program. And notice they said Channel 5. A lot of people are going to say, well, wait a minute, they went to Channel 5 when Jarrett split off from Gulas in 1977, but the first couple of years that Memphis wrestling had gone back on television in 1957, that's when Buddy Fuller, Roy Welch, and they took it over out of the Nashville office. They sent Buddy Fuller down there. They got TV, and they soon after picked up Lance Russell and Sputnik Monroe, and that was the magic combination. But they were on Channel 5 for the first couple of years and then went to 13, where they prospered after that.
It says here, wrestling news on radio and TV. Fans who would like to keep up with the wrestling news may listen to the Mat News on radio and television during the week. WMCT. Jack Eaton announces the card to the Jack's World of Sports on Wednesday or Thursday night, 10:15 p.m., Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m., 1 hour of live wrestling with interviews from the participating wrestlers. KWAM. Dave Hill, ring announcer at the Auditorium matches, interviews wrestlers from 12 noon to 3 p.m. during the week whenever the wrestlers are in town. Monday, stay tuned to KWAM, or KWAM, I guess, for lots of wrestling news. And finally, WHHM announces card on sports program, and on Wednesday night on Party Line, we will call in to let you fans know who will be on the card next week. And also it has here live wrestling on TV every Saturday afternoon. Interesting. Every Saturday afternoon from 5 to 6 p.m. Tune in to Channel 5 to see the world's greatest professional wrestlers in action. If you'd like to attend in person, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to promoter Buddy Fuller, room 132, Chiska Hotel. Tickets are limited and are issued on a first-come, first-served basis. If you do not receive your tickets the week you write in, be patient, as they are being worked on as fast as possible.
And also, the wrestling office was always in a hotel. In every Nick Goulas in Nashville had the Sam Davis Hotel and different hotels through the years. And, even the Holland Hotel for Toots Mondt and, that gang in New York back in those days. And also, Jack Eaton was the original wrestling host on Channel 5 because he was the sports guy, Big Jack Eaton. He was the guy that hosted the sports on the news, and he was the first one there before they settled in with Lance.
Well, it's interesting, too, to think about the idea that if you were a wrestling fan, there was, not a lot of wrestling TV shows, but there was a lot of wrestling content. You had to listen to the radio. You got local promos in between, I guess, the songs, right?
Yeah, well, and also...
That's crazy. In between the songs, you got local promos from 12 to 3 once a week?
Yeah, well, they'd have one of the guys come in and sit down for a while, and one of the other guys, and after, a couple of records, they'd come to him, hey, so Monday night, blah, blah, blah. And I've mentioned this even in the 80s. I would rush back to Memphis on Friday night from wherever the spot show was, or Tupelo or whatever, so I could get the early edition of the morning paper right there on Summer Avenue. It came out the paper box at the shopping center. By 1 o'clock in the morning, you'd have an early edition of the morning paper, and that would have the card for Monday night. So before I got to TV on Saturday morning, Friday night late, I could find out what the fuck I was doing on Monday night. Because it was a weekly town. It's not like they were giving you cards weeks out. And then it might be a false booked card, because if they were going to do an angle on TV on Saturday morning and change the match, they would put in a false booked main event, so-and-so versus so-and-so. And they would announce that card at the top of the program. That's the one that would have been in the newspaper ad. Then the angle happens, and they change the goddamn match. So people believed it because it was in the ad. They were going to have a whole nother match. Anyway.
All right, Jim, a couple more here before we wrap things up this week. It is your show. This one, where's the card? Here we go. Opening event, Anton Leone versus Ivan Jones, 1 fall, 20-minute time limit. The preliminary, 1 fall, 20-minute time limit, Pat McGill versus Chris Zaharias.
Good Lord.
And the main event, is it one main event or two main events? Oh, no,
I
excuse me.
hope you're going to give me more to go on.
Special handicap attraction. The Blimp agrees to throw both men a fall apiece within 20 minutes. The Blimp, weight 640 pounds, versus Roberto Pico and Oki Shikima, which is the way it's spelled. Well, the way it's spelled here, Shikima. And the main event, 2 out of 3 falls, 1 hour time limit for the World's Heavyweight Championship. The champion Dave Levin versus the Golden Angel.
Oh, boy. Okay, this is probably a Pfeffer promotion. Anton Ripper Leone would later on in the 70s, he ran Townsend was a promoter for Roy Shire in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then later on did his own thing when he was on the outs with Shire. Ivan Jones may have been the illegitimate love child of Paul Jones and Ivan Koloff. I'm not sure about Pat McGill. Chris Zaharias. Goddamn, now
he's the brother.
I keep mixing up because Babe Zaharias was Babe Diedrichson, who married George Zaharias. But Chris Zaharias was a brother, but there was also a Babe Zaharias that was a guy that really wasn't a member of the Zaharias family per se, but used the name. Martin the Blimp Levy was one of the guys along with the or Levy or Levy or which Levy.
Yeah, everyone I know with that name, and I grew up around a bunch of kids, it's Levy. That they were at least pronounced Levy.
Okay. Well, they wore Levi's, so you can see the confusion. But Martin the Blimp was a Pfeffer creation that was big, especially in the mid to late 40s, because he would wrestle Maurice Tillet, the French Angel, and the Freak match. And a lot of the guys were in the service. So that main evented for a while and drew money because of the sideshow aspect of it. Roberto Pico was a guy that wrestled in these days. And this is the original Oki Shikina. There was a Oki Shikina in the 70s that wrestled a lot in the South, but that wouldn't be him because this would be in the late 1940s. And the world title, Dave Levin was the world champion that Pfeffer propped up for a while because he had wins over some of the other guys that at one point or another had been recognized champion. And I've got a couple of the publicity posters that they had put out with Levin's case that he was making, and they were dated sometime in the late 40s. The Golden Angel is probably because the French Angel or the Swedish Angel was booked.
The Golden Angel, I will tell you this, the Golden Angel from the photo here is one of the future Bummy Rogers.
Okay, so he wasn't even really...
Maybe the original Bummy Rogers, actually.
There wasn't anything wrong with him. He was just a regular-looking fella. He wasn't an angel with a glandular problem.
Looks like a man wearing a cape or whatever it is.
So, I mean, positioning-wise, location-wise, boy, howdy. Maybe, I'm just going to say somewhere in the Northeast in 1947.
Ooh, so close. Monday, September 16th, 1946. Mammoth Gardens, Denver, Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. Good Lord. Okay, maybe. Well, Zaharias was on the card. They used to call George Zaharias when he was a heel, the Crying Greek from Cripple Creek.
Here's a picture of Dave Levin, world's heavyweight champ and junior heavyweight champ. Dave Levin, the wonder boy of wrestling, willing to defend his title against any other claimant to the world's title. And that was the move, right? Just all of a sudden saying you have a champion.
Yeah.
My guy's willing to take on Joe Stecker. It's just he's not here.
I understand that the champion of Garbage Championship Wrestling in Poughkeepsie, New Jersey, is willing to face Cody Rhodes anytime, any place, anywhere.
For the record, Poughkeepsie has nothing to do with New Jersey. Don't try that, buddy. The promotion is Rocky Mountain Sports Enterprises. The matchmaker, I got to get this right, Bill Jelliffe. The commissioners, and it lists the commissioners here, the chief inspector, Harry Walls. The referees, Dan Darnell and Jack Bloom. Timekeepers, announcer Sam Siegel. 2 physicians, the chief of ushers, Matt Meach. The organist, Marion Schultz. And finally, the doormen, the Pinkerton Detective Agency.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of these people, they're friends of the promoter, or they hang around and they get to do these jobs, and it was a big deal to mention, their names in the program, so they like that kind of thing.
Coming next week, world's most colorful wrestler, magnificent Buddy Rogers, the Atomic Blonde.
Wow.
Rogers has posted $500 that he could beat the Blimp in 30 minutes or forfeit the $500. It's a tough job, but Rogers says he can do it. How about that?
And that 1946, that would be his first run as a heel, as the Nature Boy, and or not even as the Atomic Blonde, because 1945, the atomic bomb was all over the news, and that's when he became the Atomic Blonde, before he was even known as Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, correct?
I believe so.
That would be like the first few months he was doing it.
Coming soon, and I may get this wrong, Pierre Lassartis, French underground hero. I have no idea who that is.
Well, he was a hero of the French underground.
And then here's a couple of pictures of the Blimp. Blimp weighing in at New York, Madison Square Garden. The 8th wonder of the world, the Blimp. 640 pounds, the only one alive. You must see the human monster.
Well, you didn't see a lot of 600-something pound guys in those days, because they didn't have my 600-pound life on the fucking Learning Channel or whatever.
All right, let me go to another one here. This will be
one more. This is my last one, baby. I'm going to come in. I'm going to finish strong.
All right, I'm going to give you one that's kind of in your wheelhouse in a sense, in a generational sense. The opening bout, John Condrey versus Hiro Matsuda. And it looks like they may have made it a tag bout. Bubba Douglas and John Condrey versus Hiro Matsuda and Professor Sonata. Coco Samoa, filling in for Jerry Briscoe, against Gordon Nelson. The Outlaw Deaton Brothers versus Charlie Cook and Sweet Brown Sugar.
Wait a minute. Hold on now. Charlie Cook and Sweet Brown Sugar, who was Skip Young. And who's the brother of Joel Deaton there? Was it, what was his gimmick brother's name?
Carlos?
It would, come on. It wasn't. I don't know. Vernon Deaton was one of the job guys from South Carolina that worked with Crockett. But the Deaton brothers, I can't remember.
$5,000 challenge bout. El Gran Apollo versus Buzz Sawyer.
Okay.
$1,000 bounty match. Tommy Gilbert versus The Sheik.
Okay.
Jack Briscoe versus Assassin Number 1. And the final bout, Lights Out Texas Death Match. Mike Graham versus Dory Funk Jr.
Well, we are in Florida, obviously. And the year I'm going to be pretty certain of is 1981. John Condrey, I don't know who that is. Do you even remember?
I don't know who that is, no.
No, you would think it might be related to Dennis, except he's not. Bubba Douglas was the honorary mayor of Lakeland, Florida, the big happy-go-lucky black guy that they used for years down there as a local mid-card babyface. People loved him. Hiro Matsuda obviously is a legend and worked in the Florida office by this point. And Sanada, goddamn, didn't he have some kind of gimmick later on? Sanada, did he become?
That's not Kendo Nagasaki, no.
Okay, well,
I don't
anyway.
think so. I'm not sure, though.
He worked there a bit. Koko Samoa is the guy who wrestled in Memphis in 1983 or 82, I'm sorry, as Sabu the Wild Man before the Sabu that everybody knows today, the Sheik's nephew, was around. He was a babyface in Florida, but he was a wild heel because he was a Samoan guy. Very short, but like a snooker-like body. Gordon Nelson was, again, a long-time Florida talent and worked in the office at various points and was a shooter that could stretch you from asshole to appetite. We mentioned the Deatons. Charlie Cook was a former, I don't know if he played in the NFL, but he had some type of football background gimmick. And Sweet Brown Sugar was Skip Young under the mask.
Sonata was the Magic Dragon.
That's right, the Magic Dragon. The boys called him Puff. But Sugar, Skip Young, he used that, and then they used it for Coco where in Memphis because it turned out good, and they did. Who was first, Sweet Brown Sugar in Florida taking the mask, or Rocky Johnson being Sweet Ebony Diamond in the Carolinas?
I think Sweet Brown Sugar would have been first, because I think Rocky Johnson was 82, wasn't he?
Probably, because I was seeing him do that right before I got into business, and I was still going to some of the matches in Cincinnati.
81, 82, yeah. I mean, it's around the same time, yeah. How come every gimmick that was successful for a black wrestler ended up on Coco within like a couple of years?
Stagger Lee, too.
Stagger Lee, yeah.
Because Lawler loved Coco, and he was always trying to book him and make something different because, you know, same guy, same place for so long. Same thing with Plowboy Frazier. El Gran Apollo was a real good-looking kid that I think was from Cuba. Or, you know, I'm trying to remember, but they got him over as one of the top baby faces in this time period. And this was early heel Buzz Sawyer. Tommy Gilbert was down there at that point because I think he had probably just left Tennessee, and that's where he went. Eddie, at that point, I believe, is that when Eddie started his run in the WWF? Or they were WWF by that point? When he got in that, ended up when he got in that car wreck. But he was up there to be the protege of Bob Backlund. So Tommy was a single down here. I believe that's the way it happened. The Sheik was coming in and out of Florida at that point because he had very few options and was not getting booked by a lot of people. And I remember it being odd because of his age at that point. He was closing in on 60, and Florida was a different kind of territory than normally, how did Thez put it, brooked the Sheik's foolishness.
Hey, since you mentioned it, I'll tell you, I found it here. Gentleman Jim Kent is managing Joel and David Deaton.
That's okay. David Deaton was a Deaton there in name only. He didn't continue, I don't think. And Jimmy Kent was a longtime Tennessee manager. He was from, I believe, he originally the Chattanooga area, and he managed the Bounty Hunters for so long. But anyway, the Sheik, I don't know who the bounty was on. I don't know whether the bounty was on Tommy Gilbert or the Sheik was going for, I don't know what's happening. But Jack Briscoe and the Assassin #1, that would have been Jody Hamilton. And Mike Graham and Dory Funk Jr., I think we know who they are. And I've got to believe it's 1981 and we're in Florida, and I'm wondering because of the number of matches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's got to be a bigger town Is the card big enough for the Bayfront Center in St. Petersburg? I don't actually think so. I could be wrong. But at the same point, would this be in a bigger town in the north end of the state like Jacksonville or down south in Miami Beach? Let's go with Miami Beach, by God, 1981. How's that?
Tuesday, July 21st, 1981, 8:30 p.m. You didn't guess the time, so I'm not going to give you credit. Fort Hesterly Armory, Tampa, Florida.
God damn it. God damn it.
You know,
All right,
some
well,
of
it
the,
wasn't a St. Petersburg Bayfront big show, but it was big enough for Tampa.
There's a few interesting ads in here. One of them for the best deal in real estate called Ronald C. Reed. And then in quotes, Buddy Colt, realtor associate. He is with Tambay Realty. And then, obviously, Briscoe Brothers Body Shop. But the one that really stands out, because I've never seen this before, custom t-shirts by Marty 2. And it appears to be a picture of a pre-Funk Marty Funk.
Oh!
And some other girl wearing a Mike Graham shirt. Marty wearing the Briscoe Brothers Body Shop. Briscoe Brothers Body Shop, Sweet Brown Sugar, Steve Kern. $6 plus $1 postage. Color picture shirts of Steve, Mike Graham, and other favorites, $10 plus postage. Marty 2, and there's an address in Ocala, I guess I should say, Ocala, yes. Florida.
We have found Marty's previous occupation.
Oh, and Dory Funk's on the card. This may have been when she met Dory.
Well, I'm pretty sure she probably already knew Dory at this point in time.
She may have known Steve Kern, too.
Are you talking in the biblical sense? What are you trying to say here?
Well, she has his t-shirts. Obviously.
Well, she didn't physically remove them from his body.
I said she must have known him. If she's selling Steve Kern color shirts, not even just shirts, but color, she must know the guy. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I could be selling my own used panties.
Are you doing that again? Because I heard people that got shut out last time.
No, I'm still wearing them.
Well, that was Guess the Program, featuring the Human Monster and so much more, but it's your show.
And it's over. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us again. And join us again next week for more of the same and even better. And don't forget about the drive-thru, which is Brian's program that he slacks off on. It comes out in between these fine shows that I do. And otherwise than that, for Brian, I'm Jim. And Val, and who knows who else that we've drug along with us today. Thank you, fuck you, and bye-bye, everybody.
You commie bastard.